We're live. Welcome to Conversations in the Sewer. We're going to get started with two songs real quick. The first one I'm going to play is by somebody very familiar to our community and another artist who is also very fire. Fiji Mar and Kennedy XOXO, Slow Down. This was dropped, I believe, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And they're dropping another song. Holy crap, I don't want to butcher the date, but they're dropping another song soon called Outsiders. So I'll get the date for that in a second. Enjoy the song.
Her voice will always fall whenever I find my breath. This the last time that I'll call you back, and this the last time I even make the effort. My coat's hung up at home and I could finally rest. And okay, swap the phones, let's see how sad you get. I like to take my shit on first and get it out my chest.
This is Swap the Phones.
And I'm inside my head just trying to find my chest. And 83 floors out, these worries hurt me less. On rainy nights, I take my deepest breaths. And this the last time that I call you back. Oh, you know it's nothing but landmines and it's ready to text. She told me she promised I'll
doing
get
us dirty already.
left to get. I'm beaten down to a fine pulp and there's nothing left. But once again, it's all my fault and I sweet the mess. On late nights, I can feel time stall as I roll this blunt. I take this puff and sit, watch nightfall as I slowly numb. And all this pain I feel, tell me I'm the only one who feel it. I was the highest in a room, now I'm the highest in a building. Still I couldn't feel it. I need something just might kill me. It's hot in here too hot, I don't get how the walls ain't peeling. I look up from my phone, expecting missile on the ceiling. Her voice will always full whenever I find my breath. This the last time that I'll call you back, and this the last time I even make the effort. My coat's hung up at home and I could finally rest. And I stopped with tolerance breaks and started thinking less. These drugs will on my feelings like a Teflon vest. And I got some years left in me before I could catch up, yeah. I like to take my shit on first and get it out my chest. So what's next? I'm just a walking shell, I work, not do my best. You finally hear zombie land, well, more or less. We all lost the shine we had some years ago, now we just exist. Pattern work is overcome.
God damn, Miles.
This cloud is hugged like a wedding ring to my daily rose. My voice is killed as it's leaving me and I'm overlooked. It would take the ear of a deity to be
beautiful.
understood. This one page of many, I'm not going anywhere. You could hear my voice get carried swiftly through the air. 3 blocks got sewage on this, a second pair. And I try to ask for help, but I don't like the way they stare.
You got no fucking idea what it's like to be number one.
Got no idea. Hey, chat. First things first. I'm going to be real with y'all. I just spent the last hour in a call with Heber and Sil messing with this OBS, bro, and OBS is not on my side tonight. So if there's any technical errors, any mishaps, anything, I personally apologize. I'm trying my best. If only y'all knew, bro. Like, that was some comedy that Sil and Heber just witnessed, bro. But water check, chat. Sip your water if you got it. This is going to be a good episode. We're on episode 14 of Conversations in the Sewer. This is called Pain from the Past. I said it in one of the posts. I don't remember what platform I posted it on, but this is one of the essential building blocks towards laying the foundation for what I want this podcast network to become one day. I want people to host their own segments. I want people to be able to come on here and submit their voices, submit their opinions, all of that. Yeah, Doa just said every week I get surprised how long it's been. Literally, like 14 weeks is crazy. Crazy. Whether it's pre-recorded or not, that's absolutely insane. This is Sil's first live episode with us. This is going to be a lot of fun. I just wanted to say thank you for everybody for all the support on the Nashville videos, the interviews on Instagram, pushing all of the channels and stuff and engaging with the podcast. It means the world, honestly. If you haven't followed the Instagram, go follow the Instagram at Convos in the Sewer. But without further ado, I have two people who I'm very happy to have beside me today. I'm very happy to have their contributions to the channel, to the community, to everything that's been going on. They've taken on bigger roles in the Discord and the podcast, becoming the unofficial co-hosts that I kind of conned them into the job, but they're both pretty down for it, I think. So without further ado, I hope this transition goes well, because if it doesn't, it's Discord's fault, guys. But we have Sil and Heber with us tonight.
Here.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
How's it going, everybody?
Hello, Dev. Hello, Seal.
Hello, Heber. Hello, Dev. Nice to finally speak to you all at once.
Yes.
and actually speak and not have to go through technical difficulties the whole time. Once again, I'm hoping Discord is going to cooperate with us, but if this bot drops out of this channel, I'm going to lose all of our videos. So if that happens in advance, I apologize. It's on 24/7 mode, so it shouldn't drop. But they're going to be breaking down Ugly and breaking the exosphere for us tonight. Exosphere. Jesus Christ, I can't talk. That's what we were talking about, Sil. It's live, bro. You have no pressure, buddy.
Bro, no pressure, bro. You know, I'm over here bricking it low key, but I ain't gonna drop the ball. I got you.
He said, Cullen said, Sil, the most American sounding Brit. I actually said that to you off camera, bro.
Yeah, that's the same thing, bro. That was like, what is your accent? Like first time we spoke. Yeah.
Is it just British or what is it?
Yeah, I'm like from Manchester, but like everyone I know is like not from here, so my accents are kind of like everybody else's like
No, I
around me
get
and
it.
just who I speak to. Yeah.
all over the place. But I didn't hear anything like I heard it in there, but I was like, is he British or does he just have like a different kind of different accent that I haven't heard before? But anyways, before I get to yapping even more, these dudes uh they're very analytical. They're very they think what they're gonna say before they just say it. Um Sil gave us a whole 3 hour 20-minute episode uh
Okay.
on a couple songs, and that was fantastic. And there was just an idea floating around one day, and it was just like get Sil and Heber together, and I was just like, that's a fucking fantastic idea. And somebody asked again in the chat, I think it was the next week, and I was like, I'm gonna put them in a group chat literally right now. I'm putting y'all in a group chat. I think Sil, you said something. Was it you?
I believe like you read something from chat, and then
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, that sounds fire." And then you were like, "Yeah, I'm gonna put you on a group chat right now."
Uh-huh.
You took like a break to do it. Yeah,
Yeah, bro. So this is just naturally coming up, I feel like. And they're analytical with their breakdowns, but they break down songs differently. So I'm very excited to just sit back, do nothing, and listen to these two dudes take the wheel. Uh, I don't have anything else to say. So do you guys have anything to say before I play the first song?
I'll let Heber go first if he has anything he wants to say, like not regarding to this. But
I'm just excited to be here with you guys. Excited to break these songs down. Excited to see what Seal has to, cause we both like focused on different songs. He focused on Ugly. I focused on breaking the exosphere. Um, so I'm excited to hear his perspective on this for sure. What do you have to say before?
um, similar lines to you. You know, I'm like really happy to finally have this episode be here. This
For
shit
sure.
is amazing. This is like I've been waiting for this. When Heber came to me with his song, I had absolutely no clue like what he saw initially, and then I went back and looked, and I was like, yeah, this man is a genius. So tonight you're gonna see just how incredibly well thought out Heber's song choices with mine. And before we get into Ugly, I just want to say go into this with the mind that this is the bridge between both of the werewolf songs. It will make you see this song in an entirely different light.
That's something I never thought about before hearing that earlier, and I was just like, bro, that's actually insane. So
I think that context is going to be important for the
Yeah,
breakdown, or at least a good
very.
portion of it.
Yeah.
absolutely insane. So we're ready?
Yes, sir.
Let it run.
This is the first of hopefully many breakdowns. Guys, I can't I'm so excited for this. I'm nervous and I have nothing to say. So like the light's all on them, and I'm just so excited to see how they how they pick each other's brain with this and the conversation that they have. Cause I don't know how much necessarily planning went into their breakdowns with each other, or I literally gave them all creative control of this besides the playlist to start and end the I told them they could do their own songs. I haven't given them a time limit or anything, so if they want to talk for 2.5 hours about one song, we might be here for 2.5 hours, guys. I'm just excited. So thanks Sil, thanks Heber, thanks Doa for showing up, thanks Cullen for showing up, Sleepy for showing up, showing love. Who do we have in the
Appreciate you guys.
Discord chat, bro? We got Lil Knight, we got Aquafina, my brother, we got Night Owl, we got Lust, bro. Love every single one of you in
Oh, yeah,
both
shout out.
chats.
Audio.
Like, yeah, let's keep this going. It's a great feeling to have the community love what I'm doing. So and these boys are keeping it rolling without me having to go crazy and pull my hair out for 6 days. So without further ado, this is Ugly by Sewerperson, and Sil and Heber are gonna have a conversation. I believe this is Sil's song to break down, so Heber's probably going to just chime in at times. Um, Live conversations in the sewer, episode 14, Pain from the Past, Ugly by Sewerperson.
Who would you kill if you had to do it? Even in my dreams, I'm covered in sewage. Even in my dreams, I'm right there. And how you picking him when I'm right here? And I don't tell her shit for welfare. And if you knew the worst, you wouldn't be here. I had to take the wheel, but I can't steer. And she give me the gist, but I can't hear. I escape at featherweight. Yeah, I'm weak and fade, but I am free. Finally, hairy face and bloody nails, and she was mine until I turned into something else. Wait on me, she tried. Wait on me, my human brain skewed itself to say my way, and I'm ashamed. Don't look at me, I'm ugly now. Yeah, my white eyes shed these salty tears onto my face. We all evolve, we all decay. Even with freedom, you still keep your faith. Even with drowning, I still keep my faith. Judge me by action, I have nothing to say. And no matter what, there was hate. They couldn't feel me cause they can't relate. The cameras are blind, my vision is gray. And life would have sucked if I chose to be safe. Take me home, I'm done. Yeah, I could bus home in the morning and see a bad girl who'd have done. But I am not down, I am frozen up. Negativity's no fun. Yeah, I do not speak that language. And pale white skin, no sun. Ice cream punch in my lungs. I escape at featherweight. Yeah, I'm weak and fade, but I am free. Finally, hairy face and bloody nails, and she was mine until I turned into something else.
What a good choice, Sil, bro. Like, what the fuck?
Bruh, I love that song so much.
Yeah, dude, I was super hyped whenever you told me about it too. I was like, oh snap, this is gonna be sick.
I was gonna originally like keep this for a day where I did both of the werewolf songs, but those two songs need their own time. And I feel like including this in a breakdown where I can have your input to Heber is gonna make it shine that much more as a song. Because while they're not like inherently the same, it takes parts of the themes that would have otherwise been hidden from us by Miles. I think it's gonna be so much fun to see kind of
Interesting.
what clicks in your brain. Yeah. So
Yeah, I'm excited to see. Excited to see what's up.
yeah. All right, let's kick it off with who would you kill if you had to do it? This line is the best line Miles has in this portion of his career. Between the start of Sewerperson all the way up until this song came out, you cannot pinpoint a moment in Miles's career where he uses rhetoric in a way that completely disestablishes the boundaries between what we do and don't know about him. So kicking off this song with something that's so incredibly enigmatic and beautiful, but also has this inherent tragedy to it. It acts as a self-fulfilling prophecy in which Miles describes all the ways in which he has killed parts of himself, both psychologically and literally via the extended substance abuse. I always found it very interesting that Miles asks who you would kill, rather than who he would kill, who I would kill. But it's such a perfect identifier that he doesn't have to worry about killing someone else because he's already killed himself in so many different ways. The essence of this is something that's so prevalent in all the werewolf songs and the songs that are similar to it throughout his catalog. It's something that makes Ugly feel like a spiritual successor between Werewolf in London and Werewolf in Paris. It's an interlude between the bittersweet duality of the song, well, the songs that explores the good and the bad. But Ugly shows us just that, the ugly. It shows us the parts that Miles tries to hide but knows he shouldn't. This song is essentially Miles's underbelly. And I don't know about you, Heber, but if you've ever thought about a question like, who would you kill if you had to do it? You know, and I'm gonna ask this to the chat too, because it's very easy to sit and name like all these like big celebrities or something. You know, I'm not gonna name names, but like there's people that we inherently hate. But if someone asked you like much deeper than that, like who would you kill in your personal life if you had to? Most people are gonna try to frame it on the person closest to them that they dislike the most. You know, for example, Dev might say like his stepdad or something, and I might say someone from my family. But those of us who feel so deeply and intimately will often choose ourselves. So while it's a rhetorical question for us, and it's not supposed to have an answer. I think having an answer is very important because you never know when you're going to have to face this kind of choice in your life.
Yeah, dude, that was actually insane how you described that. I didn't actually I didn't actually think about that, but what's it called? Why the way because I guess when I first heard like the line, it's like I didn't actually think that, but you're so right in the ways that like that you would firstly possibly if you're not as intimate as a person as you were saying, to think about the people who are closest to you that you dislike the most. But obviously, ultimately, especially I think morally correctly, you would have to end up killing yourself in some sense. You know what I mean? Or so long, or the truth in anybody's heart would end up being that. I think eventually, because it's like I think it would be the best option, right? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. I think it comes down to you get stuck in like a feedback loop of guilt where when you start thinking about someone other than yourself, you get trapped in, oh, but how would I feel after that? Whereas if you choose yourself, you're removing that guilt from you because then it's not yours to feel, you know? You've killed yourself, you've done the deed, you're safe in essence.
I mean, in some sense, it's also because you know how you mentioned like the song is like very much ugliness and like sort of like I guess the person being ugly, you would say, or maybe.
Yeah,
So I guess like the who would you kill if you had to do would be like like the ugly person that you are, you know, and then like sort of metamorphosizing into a better person or whatever, you know.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, see, this is why I'm so glad I have you here for this because like I would have never actually interpreted like that. That's such a cool way to look at it. Yeah, like we might not want to die ourselves, but there's ugly parts of ourselves that we'd like to kill. You know, there's parts of ourselves that we'd really like to not live with.
And I think it's actually even more apparent whenever you are that at that like I guess whenever you do view yourself as like ugly person because like I guess you are in this like state of ugliness. It would be like even more apparent to that you need to go through this metamorphosization to I guess like just the only way out. I guess maybe I don't know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Wow. Jeez. Yeah, no, that is so true here. Oh my god.
And that's crazy how that first line, like I guess it was, but no, that's even you. I did not even think about that when you first like mentioned the song and I first heard it. I was just like, wow, that's a crazy line. That's literally all I thought. Wow, that's a crazy line.
Dude, dude, that's crazy because to me, I feel like that line really is like a lot of the defining factor of the song going forward. So that makes me think that you've seen like parts of the song that I haven't seen.
Bro,
Oh, man,
likewise,
bro,
likewise.
I'm excited. So moving on from that, we have even in my dreams, I'm covered in sewage. This line follows up his initial question with self-reflection. Obviously, as we all know, because it's been explained through Miles' track countless times by me and by everyone else, but dreams are usually something that are quite positive. They're associated with so much good. They're supposed to be the safe place. But Miles is so quick to disrupt that by addressing his reality, where even in his dreams, he's covered in sewage. The sewage being all the scars and the weight of his past and everything that's encumbered his back thus far and all the things that lead him into like the intense amount of substance abuse. And it's an incredibly like well-fitting way of telling people that he's entrapped in a mire composed of all the negative things that he's tried to purge once before. I think it's very important to understand why sewage is used here. You know, like yes, it's a callback to his name, but his name and the word sewage have this weight to them where his name tells the story of all of his past weighing him down. And you'll notice at this time in his life, he was dealing with how to understand a lot of things about himself he couldn't do, like when he was Ninetales and as he was transitioning. But as he's matured and tried to move away from that, you can see that he's tried to don this mantle that has so much weight and turn it into something powerful for himself. It has that same enigma to it as the first line, but that doesn't eliminate the fact that in his namesake, he's still carrying everything he was once scared of. I think some of us in the chat or in in the stage in the podcast can kind of understand what it feels like to perhaps use a different name. The power that being someone else gives you. You know, I know for example, my name's a shortened version of my own name essentially. But I took away by shortening it down, I took away parts of myself that I was once afraid of. And I left the parts that I'm now proud of. And I know other people can probably feel the same about when they chose their names or how they are kind of addressed. I don't know about you, Heber, but maybe you have some kind of like experience with that sort of thing or some kind of different take on this line specifically.
No, I definitely do have like similar experience. I guess with like what was it like I guess owning your name maybe or like what was it or
Yeah,
in that experience? Yeah, maybe or
yeah.
just like or at least just like simply like putting like two e's on my name sometimes just to like make the pronunciation clear or whatever. But and like that just like makes it feel like more me or whatever. But what'd you say? Oh, I think I do think it's also crazy what you were saying about like it not being as simple as a callback to the name, but also I guess having those deeper thoughts about the name and like I get well, you because you were kind of explaining a little bit about like what Sewerperson means, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
kind of kind of going into the weight that his name truly holds, like
oh
beyond
yeah,
it just being a stage name, it's kind of it's his past in a sense, yo.
No, yeah, yeah. Totally agree with that. Yeah, yeah, because obviously sewage is also mentioned in like breaking the exosphere. So I definitely had like similar thoughts about like the I guess the fact that sewage is mentioned and then like being related to I guess Sewerperson. So I totally agree with you. I like that idea. Well, but like, did you get that concept from like the live video where he talks about his name, or was that just like from like analyzing the music and like
So
the name, I guess?
so honestly, like I actually came up with that before seeing that, and then I was going by through like old lives and stuff, and I was like, holy wait, yeah, this is like the dots are connecting so well here. Like it really does show like how much through his music he sprinkles these parts of himself that kind of call back when we least expect it.
Yeah, but yeah, it's also because I guess like it was like taking I guess like because it wasn't the idea of like taking like I guess sort of the scars that you were mentioning like the sewage that we built up and
Yeah,
like transforming that into the music I guess or channeling that
yeah,
towards the music.
yeah.
Um
Turning it into something good. Yeah,
oh yeah, 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 damn. Yeah, I just thought it was so cool. And even in my dreams I'm right there. You think that's just like or I was thinking like but the line itself, even in my dreams, I'm covered in sewage. That's you were saying that like dreams are usually like I guess beautiful or something in relation.
yeah. They're very positive usually.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, I always like viewed like dreams as very in relation to I guess like what is going on currently in your life, maybe.
Mm,
So it's like if he's going through like this period of like massive like going through a lot of sewage, of like even brand new sewage possibly. And it's like even it's gonna show up in the dreams. Likewise, I guess, or just if your mind space is like on that for a large amount of time, I guess maybe. I'd
yeah.
assume that that's like, I just assume because my mind tries to make sense of like why dreams happen. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
for me
Yeah.
personally, it's always what happened in my recent days or weeks or something. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
not, but I don't know, dude. But yeah, I guess that's just why I thought that because even in my dreams, I'm right there. It's like even in my dreams, this is like notices that this is still can't get away from it. I guess I don't know. It is.
Yeah. That's very similar to what I had, like, to that line too. I joined the, "Even in my dreams, I'm right there," and the "How you picking him when I'm right here" lines, because,
Oh,
like, here he moves away from acknowledging the weight of everything that has tied him down,
ah,
and he tries to acknowledge that even despite all this heaviness, he still tries to be present in people's lives, and it's times where like this line specifically where he feels like those efforts that he makes to try and make himself feel present go unnoticed a lot of the time, you know. And one of the most insane things, in the first line of these two, he says, "Even in my dreams, I'm right there." But then in the second line, he moves it to "when I'm right here." He straight up changes the words used to like signify a shift in distance between him there, like him then, and him when he's trying to be present, and it shows just how unimpactful it feels, like in the grand scheme of things in his mind. And it's so subtle and it's so easy to kind of get past, but having that little nod to the depth and the distance between him and those around him really kind of shows a lot of his mental state during this time.
oh, wait. So, why do you think there's distance between the people around him? Or like,
Because he says, in the third line, he says, "Even in my dreams, I'm right there." But then the line after he moves it, "How are you picking him? But I'm right here." You know, it's such a subtle change in wording, but it adds this bridge, this distance, this gap between him and everyone around him, because he was right there, but now he's right here.
oh, okay. Do you think do you think that explains sort of like the very next line a little bit, or like, or that would that be your explanation for that? Or
that would kind of be my explanation for it in a sense. Yeah, it's just um a lot of talking about how he feels this distance when nobody else does. And that's why the line that comes after that, and he's talking about, I don't tell her shit for her welfare. It's it's a lot about he feels very clearly this lack of understanding because of the distance between him and those around him in a lot of cases.
No, I totally see that. And like, or like he doesn't tell her anything also because it's like because there is that distance, or like he's maintaining that distance with that action as well.
Yeah.
Well, when I first heard the line, I thought it was actually like sort of signifying of like I guess like him trying to be a little better, by like understanding that he shouldn't tell her anything by for her welfare or something. But I totally
Yeah.
get that as well.
Yeah, no, when you put it like that, that is also true. Like that is another way that is very very kind of easy to interpret that. Like I think the way that you view that kind of it says a lot about like us as people, like I notice the distance, but you notice like the consideration in it. It's so interesting. It's such like a subtle look at like the differences in the way that we think, which is super cool.
Yeah, yeah, it's super cool for sure.
I think another very 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 awesome thing about these lines here and then going into the last couple lines. So between I don't tell her shit for her welfare, if you knew the worst you wouldn't be here. Like the the amount of perspective changes between like all these lines, it shows that he's not directing a lot of his feelings anywhere specific, and because he's not directing that to a specific person, it instead makes it sound like he's just trying to convince himself that keeping everything within him is for the benefit of those around him, as opposed to the reality in which he probably doesn't share that out of fear and concern for himself and his own well-being. He's so used to hiding this truth under the guise of something more righteous, when in fact the reality is much more selfish. And it's that alone is something very prevalent in early sewer, as opposed to when we move into like swamp 2 and later. you know there's a very clear divide in how much he tried to hide during this part, and as he's gotten older and matured, he's become a lot more honest with himself, with the music, and with those around him. um and the if you knew the worst you wouldn't be here line, it shifts the perspective once more and moves to address someone specifically, whether that be an individual or the people around him at this time. And it really infers that if people around him did manage to grasp kind of the honesty, if he let himself like drop his walls and tell people really like the truth about what's going on in his brain, it would feel a lot worse. He would feel even more alone than he does keeping it within himself. And I think having that isolation be so part of the fear and the selfishness of why he does keep things inside, like especially like this early on in his career, it it shows how like deep and intrusive these feelings are, because at this point he's probably dealt with it countless times. And
He looks to the homie for the sub.
when you've dealt with things for so long and nobody else around you has been let on, you feel as if your only purpose in life is to carry these things by yourself. Almost as if the weight of his past is his brand to bear, you know?
I mean, it seems like from the line, like he feels like or like he needs to, or else well, I think it's a common feeling like if you knew the worst, you wouldn't be here. You know, like if you knew the worst of like the people that we are, then like we wouldn't like really be talking to anybody. You know.
That
And
Yeah,
so,
it's a lot. It's a lot of fear of like abandonment and stuff. You know, you never really know
mm,
how anybody in your life is gonna react to the things that you tell them. It's so scary to know that like how you perceive things is so vastly different to those around you. So the moment you let something slip, you let that visage that you've held up around your friends so long kind of like drop and become something much more honest. You know, you never really know. It's so much easier to bear it alone.
yeah. Sometimes it's also like I think calling back to like the line before for their welfare. It's almost like sometimes it's like you kind of if can't say anything because it's like it won't help anybody else, I guess, or
You know?
perhaps you just worried because it will not help them. Yeah, I guess it wouldn't serve anybody for them to know in some sense.
Yeah, it's definitely, like it's a lot of doing a righteous thing, but it not necessarily being the best thing for himself and for those around him. It's I think a lot of like early sewer stuff, you'll notice he has a way of forcing this distance between those around him because it's easier that way. It makes things more manageable when things are only real to himself too. You know, it's you'll hear me talk about it later in the song, but a lot of the addiction struggles were something that he's dealt with by himself for the most part because of the damage that he has caused when he has, had people around him that have tried to aid him.
It goes into the next line. I had to take the wheel, but I can't steer.
Yeah. Yeah, these last two lines were initially when I wrote out like the first paragraph for these two lines and I was like, okay, we see here something that he is still kind of a victim of today in a sense. You know, it's not inherently bad, but he ends off the verse in such like a completely honest way. The most honest way he's ever answered a verse at this point. You know, it adds a lot of texture and depth to the possibility that this song is closely linked to both of the werewolf songs because those songs are the times between like the early stages and as he's maturing where you see the shift in the honesty, the acceptance. You know, Werewolf in London is a lot about that's all about the negatives and the ways in which, he's tried to purge them but failed. But Werewolf in London moves on to that positive, almost neutral acceptance that for some people this is the way of the world and it's kind of the process of maturity for people like Miles and just people that go through extended substance abuse. But Ugly has neither of those. He's not being he's not being accepting of the past like, inherently at this point of the song, but he's not labeling the negatives in a way that are so obvious. It's more so just the interlude between those, like I said at the beginning, where he's giving himself a moment to, instead of being honest about the realities of either side, kind of he's being honest about the ways in which he's affected the things around him a lot more. Um, Werewolf in London kind of shows the start of that. He says, "I smile big as I can manage while my furniture rots." He talks a lot about the ways in which like where he lived, he kind of it falls into disrepair as like the weights of addiction kind of wear him down and make it unable for him to function the way that he normally would. But Ugly moves away from like, oh, I can't function, but to more the social aspect of his life doesn't function correctly when he's crumbling under all this weight. And I think the most important part about the I had to take the wheel, but I can't steer line is this common thing where Miles removes the autonomy from himself. He talks about how when he's not under the influence of substances, life and existing as a whole is so much more difficult. It has that weight that he's been trying to escape and been trying to like learn how to deal with as he's matured, but he's not prepared. You know, like he can't steer. He might want to, but the matter of fact is he can't. And that's a very important honest word for him, because you never see him before this point, you never see him inherently say like, "Oh, I can't do this." It's a lot of, "Nah, I don't want to." Um, and it speaks volumes about kind of how being clear-headed isn't an easily achievable state of mind when he's off the drugs. That lucidity is immediately replaced with all this repressed guilt and kind of sadness. And I know you were talking about kind of like when you brought up this line, you were gonna kind of like bridge into like kind of that feeling of not being able to function. Yeah.
Yeah, just totally. With sorry, I just had a crazy thought about like because you were saying all this crazy stuff, man. I had to take the wheel, but I can't steer. What's it called? We with like the importance of the can't. I think you really hit a high note on that. Like I didn't think about how important that was until you really said it. Um, and also really like I guess it's fitting to like the name of ugly. Just sort of like I guess like to be in that state of not being able to sort of, I guess and I know you mentioned sort of not having like the clarity maybe, but in some sense like the title being ugly, it was like it is some clarity of like yeah, this is
Yeah.
what it is, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's there's not an inherent like lot of clarity, but there is those few moments in which he's able
Mm.
to recognize the ugly parts. Yeah.
Ah, I think that's like what he's speaking on here. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what he can make out, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, like but even then he retracts that in the final line, like it follows a similar suit, but rather than struggling like with his issues with autonomy, it's actually once again kind of admitting that there is people around him offering this help,
Mm.
but he has such a hard time accepting that. He has such a difficult time like accepting that even despite all this, people still want to help him. Even going forward, like moving into Swamp 2, we get onto Berserker, you know, it really we have the your voice sounds nice, but I don't listen to what you tell me. That comes later
Mm.
than Ugly, but it's that same idea where even after Werewolf in Paris has taken place, he's still fighting with this issue where like he's maturing, but he still doesn't know how to accept the help that's in front of him. Help has a much more kind of consequence in his mind. And I think that's a lot of what happens with addiction. When you're deep inside addiction and you're trying to break that cycle, the help feels more like a threat than a promise.
Definitely.
I totally get that.
Holy shit.
Yeah, actually, I didn't even think about that when I first like thought about the line she gave me the gist, but I can't hear it. I kind of simply thought like there's just too much like going on in the brain for it to actually like able to listen. But no, I totally think it's like more like what you're saying. It's like you sort of don't want to hear it, or maybe you're like heard it so many times, maybe that it doesn't help, maybe it just doesn't work.
Yeah, no, but like, even just with like your observation there, like there is a chance that his brain is so full. Like maybe this is one of those rare moments between highs where he's like feeling the weight of everything, but like, and he's hearing that like in his brain, he's hearing the help around him, but there's too much else going on inside there that's taking away from that. He's more consumed by this kind of like fear and this weight.
You know what's kind of funny is like the can't steer and can't hear is kind of like you could sort of imagine like on some drug, you know what I mean? So because you were talking about
Yeah,
substance abuse, yeah.
yeah, absolutely. No, it's crazy kind of how it all ties together. Like his word choice is so goddamn specific. Like every song, like no matter whether it's a Jabari album, an Eric album, every single word means something like important to the context of a song, and really just like I can't. It's so intentional, especially at this point in his career, man. Like yeah,
But he puts out so much music, so how's he keep up with being so
bro.
detailed
One
and
step at a time.
and I feel like there's some theories and stuff that we've asked him about during like listening parties and stuff, and he's like, I didn't even think of it that way. Like that's an accident. Like, and it's like,
Yeah.
holy shit, dude. Like there's so much to dig into, bro. If you guys have seen the camera, I'm sitting here and I'm just as locked in as everybody's saying Heber is, bro. I'm sitting here like dumbfounded. Like you've left me looking at my ceiling like 3 or 4 times already, bro, and we're just getting to the chorus.
It's a lot of what Jacob and the cat and the chat was just saying. You can't hear through the days and the mental traffic, the drugs, the alcohol, etc. Yeah, it's it feels like it's like you were saying. Like he said, like I don't like it's unintentional sometimes, but it's that begs the question. Like yes, it's unintentional, but not only is he consciously a genius, he's subconsciously a genius.
Yes.
Like when the awake part of him sleeping, the rest of his body's still like it's still kind of like creating these fucking potions for us all to consume. Yeah, this guy
Literally.
is
No,
insane.
it definitely is. Like, I think even a larger shout out to the the subconscious, because I think even like just Nine Tails era was like the lyricism was crazy, you know. But I assume a lot of it was just like quickly punching in, or even freestyles entirely, you know.
Yeah, no, there's so many Ninetales songs where you kind of go back and look, and you really take a think, you take a second to think, and you're like, wait, so much of this is like would have been so easy for him to brush past. Look at Ween Off. I I go back to Ween Off all the time. I love that song. That song is incredible. But every time I go back, I hear something slightly new, like I'll hear a new ad lib and I'm like, holy shit. I never heard this ad lib before, but it changes the song. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
totally.
what the fuck?
But sometimes it's
Yeah,
super
he's
simple.
so crazy with it.
Wow.
Such a, such a crazy dude, man.
Such a crazy guy.
I guess without further ado, let's get into the chorus. This chorus, this chorus scares me because coming into this song, this was the part where this was the one part of the song coming into it where I was just like, huh, I don't really know what I'm going to say about this. But I had to first understand a lot of what he meant with, I escaped at featherweight.
Mm.
And it took me a while before coming up with that. So before I get into that, let's explain kind of what this chorus achieves, because it achieves something similar at this part as the interlude between between two parts of the song that function for different reasons, as opposed to the end where it acts as a reminder. But here it is that same short and sweet interlude between the introspection of verse 1 and the reality check we're faced with in verse 2. It took me such a long time to really figure out why Miles chose this for the chorus, but after looking deeper at it and understanding that this line isn't as meaningless as it kind of seems, you know, this is the first time in Miles's career at this point where we get a completely uninhibited, realistic view from Miles's perspective. No matter how good things could have been or could be, at the very least, throughout this all, the one constant in his life is how he crumbles under the weight of both his struggles and his addictions. The first line has this weightlessness feeling that's given to us with with featherweight, but the I escaped part of this line is so misleading. He's not escaping from his addictions like I initially thought. I thought, oh, this is him trying to break, this is him finally breaking away from the cycle and getting a breather. But it's actually much darker than that. And this is corroborated by the second line, but this line is actually him caving into his addiction and accepting the escape that they offer him. They give him the feeling of weightlessness, like he's mentioned, like at the beginning of the song and in the past. And it has such a different meaning, both literally and figuratively. Figuratively, it offers this peace of mind that he is finally, after all the stress during the song, granted a moment of relief and a slight sense of dread through the knowledge that these things are still going to come back once it all wears off. But literally, featherweight is a complete reference to a lot of the ways in which his weight fluctuated during the height of his drug abuse. During all this extended usage, he probably felt so much frailer than as he's gotten older and he started to move away from it. We've seen him like now, like his body has gotten to this point where he's so comfortable, he's so happy. He's not, he doesn't look frail, and I'm sure he doesn't feel frail. But the second line continues on a lot of the sentiment from the first line of the chorus and gives us a lot more depth about the reality. It tells us that during the addiction, no matter how weak and faint he really felt, it paled in comparison to the freedom that he was permitted. At the end of the day, during this time in Miles's life, the only thing he was seeking was freedom from reality and kind of the shackles that had been chaining him down to reality for so long. And so having him at the beginning of the chorus escape to his addictions to subjugate that worry, he's getting the moment of respite that he knows he shouldn't be given yet, that he knows isn't what he needs. And I'm sure maybe Heber, you've thought about this either similarly or a little bit different, but I wonder if you can kind of understand maybe a little bit differently to me, because I know I'm talking kind of like the ways in which the words interact, but I wonder if your brain has kind of extrapolated anything else.
No, dude, I totally got like the exact same thing you were saying, or at least for this little area of the song.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, or I think for like 90% at least. Um, but yeah, no, I don't think I have any other notes. What's it called? Well, no, yeah, because I didn't think about it, I think, as deeply, but I definitely started. But I do agree that it is misleading. I actually initially did not even think that the escaping at a rate, whether it was like the truly escape, like the actual turning into the goodness or whatever. I kind of like instantly saw it as the feeding in the to the relapse or whatever. Because of the last line in the chorus, like she was mine until I turned into something else.
Yeah,
You know, because
totally.
it
Yeah.
kind of brings back to like it's not the person I guess that she once knew. And obviously it relates to the first little area talking about the relationship in some sense. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that is very true, and I think kind of the third and fourth lines of the chorus really speak volumes about like the first two lines, because the third line, we have hairy face and bloody nails, which it's Miles making an effort to show us that when he was in these like drug induced states and when he was so deep into it, there was no real care of for
oh,
himself. There was no grooming. Like, he would let himself rot.
Hmm.
We heard him say that in Werewolf in London, but here it's not shame. It's reality. It's that first sign of reality that we're gonna see pour into the second verse, where he's kind of like, this wasn't good or bad. This was just my life. This was functioning for me, or at least the lack thereof. And then he ends it off with, and she was mine until I turned into something else. And much like Heber said, you know, Miles is admitting here that addiction is morphing him into something unrecognizable. Not just to those around him, though, but to himself. Just like the ways in which addiction makes him shapeshift during the werewolf songs, Ugly follows that same path by showing us the unsightly parts of it, where the other two songs show us kind of the ways in which he would break down or accept the addiction. Here, we're looking more towards the knock-on effect and the ways it rippled on to everything around him, but specifically the people, which is the tragic reality check I mentioned before, and is what helps kind of usher us in to a lot of the truth in verse 2. Did you have anything more in regards to the chorus, Heber?
just straight up that I did not think about the hairy face and bloody nails part literally, but when you brought it up, I was like, wow, that actually makes so much sense. We just when listening to those lines, I was like, this means nothing to me. I don't know. I couldn't really make sense of it. But you saying that, I'm like, oh, absolutely. I totally get it.
See, normally I like that would have been like quite a throwaway line to me too. Um, but there was a point in my life where I was very much in that same kind of pit where I was unable to kind of take care of myself. Like at a base level, I was like rotting. So me being able to see that was kind of that personal alignment for me in this song. And I think that's why it connected like that, because I'm like, yeah, no, like I've been there, Miles, in a sense, like I get it.
I too haven't shaved, like for a minute.
Yeah,
That's
like
pretty much like
I,
that's the only thing
I
I
too
thought.
have had a beard before. This might seem crazy to believe.
But yeah, very relatable. Really, not the
But
bloody
yeah,
nails part though. But I do get leading it getting to that point. Yeah.
yeah, straight into verse 2, where we're given that reality that we have been craving, that was really missing from the other two werewolf songs. We're we're finally blessed with the sprinkles of honesty we've been promised at the start of the song, and now we're seeing Miles truly look at things in a neutral light, where things are neither positive or negative. It's this brazen acceptance in an effort to come to terms with the ordeal as a whole. You'll notice he said she tried to wait, which is very symbolic of his acceptance after the fact. And despite the obvious sadness in his delivery, you know, it's very easy to miss out on here because we see the sadness at the start of the song, and the way he delivers, who would you kill if you had to do it? It's very somber. And you'll notice through verse 1 his tonality and the way he's singing changes, and gradually it makes these subtle shifts that accent the emotions in a very specific way. In this line, his delivery encapsulates this thankfulness that there's no malice in the realization that people around him couldn't wait. He's just much more thankful and appreciative for trying so long, despite it not being a necessity. You know, he's very happy in part that there were people in his life that felt like he was worth that, even when he was at his lowest moments. It adds a very much needed level of like reflection to a song that's coated with so much shame. Before I carry on though, Heber, I have a feeling you might have kind of anticipated this in a different way to be like you might have kind of heard this in a way that maybe I didn't, because when I was looking at this, like this was like like my initial like reaction to it. But I know sometimes like things catch you in a way where I'm like, yeah, I would never have looked at this like in a very like you way.
No, I get you. No, but just for this first line, wait on me. I mean, it was just straight up just the concept. I do agree. Just the thankfulness. That, and also just the demonstration, or just sharing that she did try to wait, and that happened. And that was a grateful experience, and but also it was an experience in its entirety. It has like the gratefulness, but also the dang, I really did that.
Yeah.
I think it just goes right into like the next line.
Yeah, the next line, it changes. He says my human brain skewed itself to save my worth. He moves away from this kind of thankfulness and this kind of profound realization that like holy shit, like you said, like I really did this, like I really had this effect on people around me. And here it feels a lot more pitiful about the fact that in order for Miles to preserve his own image, his brain would constantly like warp itself to still provide some essence of safety amidst like the ever shifting like situations between like the drug abuse and the ways in which his body was changing. His brain had to kind of accommodate that in its own right, and still provide some sort of like safe space during the times in which he was quite literally transforming in multiple different ways. And it's like on one front there is something for him to be thankful for, that his brain was able to save him from a lot of the things that he couldn't handle in some aspects. But on the opposite end of it, it's very painful and harsh to see such a blatant understanding that there's things that even our own brains really can't comprehend. And so our brains will try to, in an effort to save us, they will change. It will change the way in which we think or the way in which we perceive, and it will cause us to lock away certain parts of our brain in order for us to be able to function normally. And I think that's a lot of what we're seeing in this line here. The ways in which Miles' brain tried to protect him.
Yeah, I agree with like the shutting parts down of your brain. Because it's like I guess in some sense you could say it's like not full potential or whatever, or like
Yeah.
or like the common idea that like you're not using most of your brain power or whatever. Um, but yeah, and it's like you were saying, the self-image. But it's also not even like the self-image, but it's also that self-image was like substance abuse, as you were saying. So that was like the worth in the situation that he's talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a very easy line to look past on the surface, like in the greater context of the song, it's not like the most insane or important line, but it's there to add like a texture that would have otherwise been missing. And I think that's something that he's got a knack for in general. And it was something I noticed like when I was looking at breaking the exosphere too. There's a lot of lines that didn't have to be there, or a lot of words that don't have to be there. But the fact that he chooses like very specific like line structure, very specific words, it shows like kind of how masterful he is at like creating a scene for us.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the
Especially
perfect
the word
picture.
choices and all. Perfect picture for sure.
Perfect picture, yes, sir. Going on from that, we have, and I'm ashamed. Don't look at me, I'm ugly now. Yeah, my widened eyes shed these salty tears onto my face. After this, after the previous line in which, he's acknowledging the ways in which his brain made attempts to protect him from his own mistakes, we're kind of offered some more self-reflection as he admits his shame for the way he's become with "Don't look at me, I'm ugly now." And because of the way it's sung, it encapsulates both the mixture of shame and the pride that is still seeping into the song at this point, where he's disappointed of what he became, but he's happy that in some small part he's evolving past that. And this becomes more and more prevalent after this line in his acceptance and this pride in the fact that he's able to shift away from the shame slowly but surely. It's beautiful, but the shame before this is still incredibly evident. The, and underneath it all, the pain is hidden away until at least the very end. But the giveaway here is in the delivery, as I said, because it's very clearly intended to be that same sadness we hear at the beginning.
Hmm.
But underneath it all, there really is there's that note that gives us something else. It's an air of gladness, like that shows that he did survive and he is happy that he survived, despite how much pain it caused him, regardless. Did before I go on to the second line, because the second line's its own beast. Heber, did you have anything kind of to add to that?
Oh wait, so you didn't even mention the my wide and eyes,
Oh no, I've
or
not even gotten onto that yet.
oh,
No.
okay, 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 okay. Well, I mean, well, I have to mention the fact that like the title of the song is mentioned in this line, ugly. Just that. I mean,
Yep.
um, so it's pretty monumental, I guess, in that manner. Yeah, no, but yeah, I guess most of what I have to say is that next line.
All right. Well, I'll go straight to
Well,
the
I
next
I
line then.
thought what you were saying is kind of in relation to that, but yeah,
I mean, it is in part, but I have,
yeah.
but there's something. The next line has its own kind of like dedicated breakdown in a sense,
Okay,
because
okay.
it there's something very incredible about the intentional choice of salty tears. Like I was
Mm.
just saying before, he's very good at adding these extra words. And here, this line could have easily been left as "my widened eyes shed these tears onto my face," and nobody would have batted an eye. But once again, he's chosen salty to add that little bit of extra something, because it's so groundbreaking in the way that it directly reflects the way he feels. My widened eyes is obviously metaphorical for his ultimate realization, like of his journey up until this point, and the way in which it opened his eyes to the depths of what he faced. And the salty word that he added here that really didn't have to be here adds such like a bittersweet note to this line that would have otherwise been missing. And it changes a lot of the reception, like, for people of the way this line is handled.
Facts, facts, facts.
Yeah. So yeah, Heber, whatever you have to say about that second line. Now I'm intrigued.
I mean, it's kind of I felt like a little more about like what you were saying prior to this, but this I guess this gave more insight to the she said shed these salty tears. But I was just the fact that it mentions I guess the widened eyes would be that first glimpse of sort of the realization of the position that they're in, especially coming right after like I guess be, being ashamed and then realizing that they are ugly now. I guess it's sort of
Yeah.
like it's sort of like I think shame is like the bottom of like everything or the bottom emotion or something, and so it's like this is like the realization point. Can you repeat what you were saying about like the salty tears and why it's like so?
So salty here adds a bittersweet feeling to the line. You know, salt is something that we add to a number of things to give different flavors. Here, it's used to change the flavor of the line and give it that bittersweetness.
Oh, I
Mhm.
totally get you. Okay. Yeah, yeah. I totally see it now.
Yeah, that's Did you have anything else on that line
No,
before I move on?
I
No.
don't think so. No.
Okay. Oh man, I'm not prepared to break these three lines down.
No, these are good. These are good
Um,
ones.
so here we
You
have
got
we all
it.
evolve
You got it.
and we all decay. Even with freedom, you still keep your fate. Even when drowning, I still keep my faith. These three lines ultimately mark a very notable shift in the song, where
Yeah.
Miles moves away entirely from wallowing in self pity and shame that is given to him under the light of the past. And this is his first real attempt at moving towards acceptance that we will later see, like, as he matures in later albums like Swamp 2, like I've mentioned before. And here it shows that even despite the ways in which everyone around him watched him change and shift, he still managed to maintain the things that make him who he is at his core, whilst also still morphing into a new evolved version of himself in which he's conquered parts of his life he thought were deeply unconquerable for a long time. We ultimately see here that Miles has started to make a change in his life where he's allowed to function in a way that he was scared to do so before. This honesty acts as his gateway to recovery from this point out, and beyond ugly. After the song releases specifically, like after Dream Hopping 2 comes out, is where we see that final shift in where he does try to start working into someone new. And it's where we see a lot more of that same honesty. Before I go into the other two lines, Heber, do you have anything about that line?
Um, we all evolve, we all decay. I mean, it's just super facts, I didn't think, but I don't definitely agree with like the super turning point in the song. Just goes along so well with like the next couple lines. Yeah.
Yeah, the next couple lines, we have even with freedom, you still keep your fate, which adds more of that subtle acknowledgement that everything that has happened to him that led up to this point was ultimately inescapable in his life. These things, the addiction, the pain, the strife, the suffering that he went through, was completely necessary in his eyes for him to become who he is as we know him now. It's kind of that realization that without the struggles he faced as Ninetales, whether that be, you know, a lot of his addiction like prior to this point, or whether it was the ways in which fans always wanted him to, you know, be the sad guy. Here he's kind of accepting that this part of his past served greater good in his life. It was something that looking back he understands he wouldn't change, because even with the freedom to change all of these things, the change only really came in his life when it was right for him. And the final line of these three, even when drowning, I still keep my faith, continues his acceptance from the previous line. And adds a reminder that even though he was constantly collapsing under the weight of the addiction and the struggles, throughout it all, the one constant in his life that kept him afloat was faith. I kind of assume the faith in question is a lot more than faith in himself, but it's more so geared towards faith in the plan that fate had in store for him. And also faith in his own abilities, which shows that sometimes that belief in something much greater in life can pull you out of depths you thought were unable to be climbed from. You know, sometimes no matter how unfathomably inescapable parts of your life may seem, trusting in the parts of yourself that you know are strong can save you from yourself when you least expect it.
God damn, bro.
Oh, yeah, that last part is like super facts to like just like to life, you know, in general for sure.
Believing in something
Or the
greater, bro. Like that's crazy.
Because, you know, it doesn't even inherently have to be religion. You know, like sometimes belief in anything is better than belief in nothing. There's so many times you'll kind of hear in life people who feel so aimless because they don't have something that they believe in, whether it's a high power or, you know, kind of a strict set of beliefs that have been brought up in their life, or whether they don't have something within themselves that they feel that they can rely on. You know, it's that people without that same kind of anchor in their life feel a lot more aimless than others.
totally see that.
Did you have anything to add about those lines, Heber?
Just like the sort of agreeing with you with like or calling bringing back what you were saying about these lines and accepting who he is in some sense, like you were saying. Um
Yeah.
because like he's aware that his fate will remain, you know, and it's also this faith that keeps him going through like through the sewage that he mentioned before. Um but yeah, I mean just really awesome lines.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess without dwelling on that too long, without getting into kind of the meat of that section of the song, we have "Judge me by action, I have nothing to say." This line, I had to keep this as itself as I was breaking it down, because it's very linked to the line that comes after it, but on its own it rings with a sentiment that after everything he has faced, after all the mistakes and the weighted decisions he's made, his actions are from this point forward in his life the only things that can ever absolve him from that past he's been so afraid of, that
Mm-hmm.
has been bearing him down. There's such a very profound and important understanding that no amount of words could ever rectify things, both in his mind and to those people around him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people can never understand the gravity of situations, even if you give them the facts, the logic, the reasoning behind all of the things you've done. at the end of the day, no one's gonna understand that unless they've lived through something completely similar and have had to face those same kind of life-altering decisions. You know, so his only path forward and the only thing worthy of being judged anymore is what he goes on to do from this point on. From after this song, after dream hopping to, kind of everything he releases in his art hereafter is his way of freeing himself more and more of that guilt and that shame, and in a sense is kind of his own apology to those that he has scorned so bad that did try to be there and tried to stick around even when they knew they shouldn't, and even when it came at a greater cost to their own kind of health and well-being. I think this line alone says a lot about how grounded Miles is, you know, to be able to look at all of these struggles with such kind of a blessed outlook that everything he's gone through thus far, he's now able to move in a direction that frees himself in some small part. He doesn't have to linger on the fact that he'll never be able to recover what he's lost. Instead, he's able to rebuild something new, something stronger. He's able to create more solid foundations for himself and the future that he wants to build. You know, and even despite kind of no desire to being commended by anyone, it's still a journey that offers a story for more than Miles. You know, whether whether you've experienced something that's exactly the same, you'll be able to take away some part of this story, whether it just be, you know, it's okay to move on, it's okay to be accepting, or kind of learning to deal with parts of yourself that you are afraid of. This song has something that can be true to anybody who listens to it. It's not just Miles's tale. It's a very subtle reminder that to move forward in life, all it really takes is the ability to forgive yourself first. Before I move on, Heber, did you have anything kind of in regards to that line alone?
Um, no, I don't know about the line alone, but just sort of it's like its relation to like all the previous lines, I guess, you know.
Yeah,
Well, also like even back to like the beginning of the song where like he doesn't tell the girl anything. And sort of like I don't know, in some sense it's like, or looking back through the song, it's like, judge him by actions, he says, and it's like this is one of like, I guess for me looking back, it's like the like one of the only good actions that he does, in that era. Um, but also like just like this, how you mentioned like we all evolve, we all decay. It's like sort of like the transitioning point.
yeah,
Um, I sort of saw this as also like sort of like the afterglow of like after the relationship was over with. Like he was able to sort of like see these things, or sort of realize them and articulate them more so. Because
yeah,
this is like after he's mentioned that she tried to wait on me, and this is like essentially it's very clear that the relationship is over, and like so I was just thinking like this is partly the perspective that came after that. I was just sort of what I was thinking.
yeah. No, that is absolutely. Wow, yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I was obviously I was so focused on like the grand scheme and what it
Oh
meant, but
yeah.
yeah,
But no, you're so right about like these individual lines and how much meaning the individual lines themselves have. In the fact that you could extrapolate so much just from those lines alone, because I feel like listening to music, you could just literally catch one of these lines and not understand the rest of the song at all, and still be like impacted and inspired, or like
yeah.
at least love it in an amazing way.
Absolutely, yeah. I think I mean, that's something that kind of, he's had that in every song. Even
Yeah,
going back to Nine Tails, you could
So true.
just hear a single bar in a Nine Tails song, and you're like, "Holy fuck, I've never heard something like this." Yeah, no, he's so insanely good at having stories and kind of morals tied to specific lines that kind of exist beyond the boundaries of the song. Absolutely. From there, we have, and no matter what there was hate, they couldn't feel me because they can't relate. So coming after a line that is obviously more profound and is weighted towards Miles's attempts to make amends and to go forward and start a newer version of himself. The next two lines are anchored as a message to himself, both past and present, that serve as a reminder that no matter what, there's always going to be someone in your life that hates you, no matter what you do. But nobody will ever truly be able to feel the way you feel about what you love and what you aspire to do. So as long as you're able to feel, then why would that hate ever have to matter to you in a way that would completely change your art or whatever it is that you love? You know, nobody will ever be able to feel a Sewerperson song or a Ninetales song unless they have an experience that is akin to it. It's something that has been there from the beginning, and that's what makes it so easy to fall in love with Miles's music is his ability to understand that his experiences extend beyond himself. They have such kind of connectivity to them. Whether it's an entire story or a specific feeling, a specific emotion, a specific moment in his life, there's always one thing that you can hook, kind of latch onto. So one thing that I always think about when I hear this line, and I think about that is there's members of the Sewer Chord, this whole community that never enjoyed Ninetales music the way they do now because they hadn't been in that same headspace. For example, like Satechi was a very big one, in the community. He didn't like Ninetales at first. Satechi knows barely anything about Ninetales, but he had one of those defining moments in his life where he was able to go back and listen to a Ninetales song. Was like, holy fuck, yeah, I understand it now. This shit bangs, and that pulled him even further into it. And that kind of shows the having a part of your life that can connect so deeply to the music that you consume, even while it's not consistently true, you will find yourself at some point in your life being able to equate yourself to a different song or a different emotion that Miles has given us. You know, it's a beauty of music, but it's something that Miles has kind of found a way to consistently evolve. He never sticks to just one defining emotion so much as his catalog of music spans every emotion you could possibly feel. There is an aspect of Miles in every walk of your life. And no matter how old you are, no matter what you do in life, one day you're going to hear a song from Sewerperson and it's going to change your life that you never expected a song could because it has such a force to it. It's got a gravity that is illuminating when you're finally able to understand it.
yeah, dude. Well
Yeah, I
said.
think
I agree.
it's one of the most beautiful things about Miles's music. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and like how we're saying, it just you can get it throughout so much of the discography. So it will happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's members of Sewerperson's fan base that are all ages. I remember like uh way back I saw a Reddit post, some guy said he was like 56 years old, he like listening to Sewerperson. I'm sat there thinking, I'm like, this shit really is for everyone. And in some small part, there's something that you can really affix yourself to. It's so magnetizing, you know. And I think like even personally for me, I started off as being able to attach myself to the emotion of songs and kind of the isolation that came with a lot of older songs. And as I've gotten older, I've moved towards his ability to use words and the way that he crafts his songs, you know. And I find now, like as I've matured, I'm so much more attracted to that part of Miles, his ability to evolve beyond what he sets himself. You know, going back to before the other lands dropped, we saw Screwy, Hostile, and Mud. Those three projects alone felt like incredible parts of Miles's career where we back then we thought we were seeing new parts of Miles. Like Screwy might not have been the most like well received album when it came out, but it showcased that Miles could still rap. He still had that power to deliver bars with great flows and great songs. And Mud gave us the experimentation that went on to become albums like Detour. And Hostel started off that kind of storytelling. Hostel gave us narratives. The first look at fleshed out narratives which we couldn't escape, which gave us the other lens. The other lens is birthed from Miles's love for storytelling. You Go I'll Wait is a combined effort of Miles's rapping ability, the experience he gained from storytelling at other lens, and his experimentation that we see in Detour. And after everything is culminated, we've been left with two very impressive sides to Miles. We've seen the full weight of his storytelling with Very Bad People. That album, from start to finish, tells us the multifaceted nature of life and people as a whole. It gives us so many profound outlooks on life. And then, right, as soon as a few days after that dropped, we got to see Miles's rapping side come out. But it was an evolved form that we'd never seen before. It was something that was much more impressive than Screwy. And honestly, I'm going to say this right now. Miles Per Hour is better than all four of the Comet albums because it gives us something that we've seen Miles work towards this entire time. We see a mixture of great storytelling with great bars, with incredible flows, and amazing experimentation thrown in the mix. Miles is still going to go on to do something better after this, too.
See where you're coming from. I'll give you that, Sil. All right. I see exactly where you're coming from with the take on miles per hour being better than the comets because it's the evolved form of what it's like. It's the culmination of everything up until this point, including all four of the comets, you know? Um,
Yeah.
and it was so honest too. Like that album is so miles per hour is stupid, just out on the table,
Yeah.
honest. So Damn, bro. I'm gonna have to
It's
let that
it's
marinate, bro. I don't know. Comet One's my
it's everything he's ever worked for, you know? Like everything Miles has ever worked for is sprinkled into that album perfectly. Comet 1 is an incredible album.
yeah.
All the Comets are incredible albums. But seeing those albums in their purest state and knowing that a year from now he might even be able to do that better is insane to me. And I'm not trying to kind of discount the weight that the Comet albums have. They're incredible in their own right, and they're so important as stepping stones in his career. But Miles per hour, it's his ascension, you know, like that's his ascension arc right there.
Holy shit, bro.
I can
And the
see
way
that.
all the drops were so confident too. He was just like, you're gonna want to hear this one. Like, this is one of them ones. Oh,
Yeah.
break day, but the one we have tomorrow is absolutely insane. Like,
And I also assume he was like not finished with the album before like finished uploading all the songs. So it's like the confidence of knowing that it's gonna be done. You know,
Yeah.
it's gonna be banger.
He was, you know, like every couple of days he'd be back, he'd be like, "You're not gonna miss this one," you know, like he knew, like he really, you know, like at his core, he knows like where he is in his life, and you know, we saw it with the Nashville tour. You know, he you said yourself, Dev, he's the hungriest he's ever been. Wherever we are, he's gonna be, which just goes to show that we think this is, you know, like we think he's evolved now, but it's he thinks he can get better, and I have full faith in that.
it's just the beginning, like he said. It is literally just the beginning. Wow. All right. Huh.
That was kind of like a whole tangent, and I just gave
For
like
sure.
one of the hottest takes of sewer court history there, but nobody kill me, guys.
Bro, wait till they catch on to that, bro. They're gonna be like, what did Sil say? What?
No
They're
matter
gonna
what they
hear
would
it,
say.
bro. Yeah, no matter what they were saying, you know.
They just can't relate, bro.
Hey, listen, I'm on that wave right now. I will see you guys when everyone catches up. You know what I mean? Like
Pretty
y'all
much.
don't gotta be there just yet.
That was a fire. I like that. I like that. I like that. I like the fact that you're standing behind it too. You're just like, okay, Sil. I didn't expect a bombshell to be dropped tonight, bro. Like, I hope everybody's
Listen, bro,
indoors with
I
her.
just
Wow.
I trust the vision. The kind of, you know, the what really cemented like that take for me was Frost on My Grave. Like that third verse on Frost on My Grave is incredible, and it's the most honest we've kind of seen him about like his talent. You know,
Okay.
he said, "I know it's word of mouth, but words is what I use because it's my fucking job, and I'm good at what I do." You know,
All right. You
I will,
got
I
it.
will back that,
You got it, bro.
sir.
You you got it. Just like Doa said, that was me at first, but I see where he's coming from. Dead ass. I see it. I see it. At first I was gonna, I don't know if y'all saw me. I was like,
Yeah, bro, I saw the face you pulled. I was like, wait, I better get moving.
but
Good
hey,
point.
all right, dude. You got a good reasoning for it. That's why I'm not on your ass. But
Oh man. Nah, like I knew what I was saying at first was fucking batshit because it's such a hot take without reasoning, especially because of like recency bias and stuff, you know, like. But I have listened to that album so much. I have like over 2,000 plays on that album, so I like, you know, like this album's like I'm kind of there with it. Like I understand from my point of view. Agree to disagree, though. You know what? Hell yeah. You know, I'll take that. I will absolutely take that.
I see the
All
vision
right.
now.
that's a
Yes,
clip.
I
That,
see the vision.
that's a clip. You're going on TikTok, buddy.
Hey, bro. Like I said, I stand on that.
That's I didn't know we were gonna get a clip farmer as the co-host tonight.
Listen, bro, I gotta
My
gotta,
engagement's about
gotta
to be
speak my
crazy.
truth. Oh man, yeah, community, you're gonna be on my ass, bro.
Nah, you good. You good.
But leading on from what Heber said about seeing the vision, we have the cameras are blinding my vision to gray, and life would have sucked if I chose to be safe. When I first heard these two lines, I was so confused. Like they had no value to me, or at least they weren't really as special as I kind of viewed them after the fact. And this is something I say a lot. Like this was like during my like solo breakdowns. Like there was so many moments where I said, yeah, these weren't special to me, and then I went on and dropped like like a whole essay. Um, Here kind of again, and I'm pairing these two lines together because they are so interlinked and thematically and figuratively similar that they need to be together. Otherwise, I would have done them alone. On the surface, these two lines, their meaning is very obvious. That being in the midst of all the chaos after the fact, he's still struggling to adjust to certain aspects of his new reality. So much that it's blinding him in a lot of ways. However, Miles chooses blinding my vision to gray, another specific word choice in which he could have used any other color, but he used gray. And that is so incredibly special because we'll see that as a singular line, gray has its own meaning, and in context of both of the lines, they mean something different. Singularly, choosing gray here operates in a way that shows an air of detachment from things and a neutrality to his new life and his moving forward. Gray is a color that is very symbolic of both of those things, and it tells us that in essence he probably still feels in limbo and doesn't lean towards reality positively or negatively. And that is the detachment from reality. And it shows that in some part, despite his attempts at moving forward and accepting reality, there's a lot of struggle that comes with that he still wasn't fully prepared for. However, in tandem with the following line, though gray has an added symbolism of meaning boring here, which helps set up and bleeds into the line that follows, and life would have sucked if I chose to be safe, which rings with the sentiment that he wouldn't have lived any differently had he known then what he does now, because his life would have been completely formatted in a gray overtone, which in Miles' eyes is something that has always been much worse than the struggle, and shows us a small insight into his psyche and how much he values the things that make him special and the ways in which his character has been built and has helped to mold him into this version of himself. Heber, if you have anything to add to that kind of those
No,
two lines.
honestly, I'm just so curious about like the and life would have sucked if I chose to be safe. I guess your interpretation of that.
Yeah, so kind of my thing there is you know because he chose in the previous line blinding my vision to gray, uh, on its own, the gray there is like symbolic of detachment and kind of neutrality. But when paired with the second line, the gray means something else. Gray means boring, you know. Hence, life would have
Oh,
sucked if I chose to be safe. That grayness bleeds into the second line, and we get bored. He would have been bored if
uh,
he hadn't have gone through life in the way that he did. Like looking back, he knows that he wouldn't do it over again differently. He would still have led the life that he has led, just so he didn't have to fall into a boring life.
Why do you think he mentions like the cameras?
So that's where I was kind of confused, but I think the cameras here is a lot about kind of his public facing appearances and the ways in which when he would perform, a lot of times when he performed in the past it might not have felt like himself, but now he doesn't kind of know how to feel, and hence why it's kind of all blurring into this like kind of chaos.
I get you. Yeah.
Did you have kind of like a different interpretation of that, I guess?
No, definitely. I guess that's the only kind of like route that I could see it going would sort of just be like the definitely the public perception and also just the concept of just being viewed on the internet, I guess, you know.
I just low-key had a brainwave. You said that was like the only way you could figure it going, but what if in context of this song, that line actually means, you know, because obviously, the song it's called Ugly, and it's about ugliness. What if these cameras that he's talking about are like the like pictures that he's taken like between then and now, and he's kind of looking back, and he's noticed kind of like this whole spectrum of himself.
Oh, wow. You know, actually, you saying that, I kind of thought a little differently. I thought the cameras would be the people like saying things about him, and that like skewed his
Yeah, that
perception.
too. Holy shit, yes, exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, no. See, even just something as simple as that, we both like two different ways. Hell no, yeah, that's ah man, yeah. I'm so glad I kind of had that brainwave now because like that wasn't even included in my breakdown. I just kind of thought about that when you
For
said that. I was
sure.
like, could that be interpreted differently? And I was thinking like, like we see so many pictures of Miles like that he doesn't even know exist. You know what I mean? Like last LP, there were people posting pictures of Miles that he didn't know like existed, and I think that's absolutely insane to kind of think about. And maybe that's kind of like part of that. Like past versions of himself have all kind of blurred into one in a sense. Yeah. Following those two lines, we have "Take me home, I'm drunk, and I could bus home in the morning." This is the much needed light point and playful point in the song. While it still offers some sadness to it, like the delivery and the word choice still has that kind of ambiguity in a sense. He chooses very specifically "Take me home, I'm drunk," which is another case very much like the beginning of this track where Miles is trying to remove that autonomy from himself and the pitfalls that comes with his autonomy.
Mhm.
But this is the first time in Miles's like career at this point where that removal of autonomy isn't negative. In fact, this is his development. He's coming to the point he's come to a point here where he knows that if he goes home with someone else, like that's a safety net for him, that he wouldn't have if he went home by himself. And it shows that it shows lucidity, like the much craved lucidity, in which he's like, you know, if I'm left to my own devices right now, I'll relapse or I'll do something I'll regret. And in the bigger picture, it's really hard to miss the effectiveness and reality that offers like 4 miles. Kind of at the end of verse one, we notice Miles strip himself of autonomy negatively. Like he doesn't want anything to do with existence. He wants someone else to take the wheel, and take him for the ride. But here it's different. For once in Miles's career at this point, he's actively trying to protect himself rather than escape.
totally get that. Or I totally see this being like what is it? You called it light? Is that what you called it?
Yeah, like lighthearted and playful. Yeah, like
Oh, dude, when you said that, I was like, this is the light at the end of the tunnel. Like
yeah, yeah. You're right. Absolutely.
well, just because it's like he is like making better decisions in this moment, you know, and we see it a little
Yeah.
further down too. I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have the last four lines kind of bundled together in my analysis because I think they achieve very similar things. So I have for my breakdown of these four lines. I have the final four lines of Ugly follow a similar vein that the two before it begin, offering us hope at the end of what starts as an impossibly bleak tunnel.
Mm.
So I kind of did pick up on like that same thing. Yeah, lines one and two being, and she's a bad girl. Who'd have thunk? But I am not down. I am frozen up. Shows us a lot more depth and development in Miles's journey about him being able to recognize temptations in his life, and even in a form that he'd usually succumb to, here he's found a way to protect himself from the negatives while still being able to enjoy the fun and the positives without it being a problem. This part of Ugly is where we see Miles's humanity radiate through life, to radiate through like a warm guiding nightlight, and shows us how truly grounded and real his experiences have made him. After hiding the shame for so long, here we see him coming to terms with it all in its purest form. Lines 3 and 4: Negativity is no fun. I do not speak that language. I'm pale white skin, no sun. Ice cream blunts in my lungs. Ends the track with a soft melodic afterglow in which we're allowed to appreciate the shift in his vocals for the final time. From the moment the track starts, you'll notice, like I mentioned before, the range in his emotions that his vocals portrays. From start to finish, it's a very melancholic, choked up, and scared, shameful delivery that, as things progress, shifts into an acceptance and growth as the narrative flips. The vocals become much softer and floatier and significantly happier than the start. The progression from the weight and distress and melancholy to being featherweight and happy is really a transition that can only be described as perfect.
Yeah, actually, I think you nailed it with calling it perfect almost. I think. Yeah.
I have one last thing in regards to that, and then I will kind of I'll let you share your thoughts. Something kind of much smaller, but still very important to note is that Miles says that negativity is no fun. I do not speak that language, which shows once more that he's progressively made strides to move away from the negative vices in his life while still embracing that fun, as I mentioned before, and trying to function in a much happier light. And now, as he's matured, he's trying to strive to make the focal point of his life things that he lives for, whether that be the music or just whatever else it may be in his life that brings him the solace that he never used to be able to attain. So, ending of the song, Heber, if you would like to.
In terms of, well, we didn't mention the chorus again, I guess, but why
Oh
don't you
yeah,
release it?
I
Well,
yeah.
unless you
See,
wanted
the
to.
only reason I didn't. The only reason I didn't is because I kind of touched on it before,
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure.
I can,
No, no, no.
if you have
Well,
anything else.
I don't, I don't. But no, but it's just the fact that it's just the fact that it does happen again. I for some reason,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's got to be a reason, but realistically, it's just because it's like the core. I mean, Honestly, what do you think there needed to be a chorus, or do you think it was just sort of like it's a song, it needs a chorus?
I think if it was a song and it needed a chorus, you know, that wouldn't make sense because Miles has had
Or
so many songs where he just doesn't have it.
yeah,
But here it kind of serves as that final reminder to himself that even despite the strides that he has made in his life, there is still a chance that if he makes a wrong move, he could slip back into the way that he used to be. And so the repeat of the chorus is almost an echo of his past, reminding himself that, he's not, it's not over. And it may never be over. There is still a chance that for as long as he craves a lot of the things that made him free, that he could fall back into that. And that's kind of, to me, what the second chorus kind of symbolizes.
for sure. I can definitely get that from that. Yeah,
That was beautiful.
Oh,
yeah, dude.
I got so
I
much
think
more
it's
shit to think about now.
I think it's funny how at the beginning Devil's saying that this that Seals breakdown will take it 2 hours and a half, and it actually
right.
I like I thought it was a joke. That is complete joke. No, it's not actually though. It's been 2 hours.
This was not my intention, guys. I'm sorry. I derailed it.
That's funny as hell.
No, it's
That's so funny, bro. I mean,
Oh man.
2 hours well spent, though. I mean, everybody has
for
a
sure.
different point of view on a song probably than we previously did. Like, I definitely do. I know I'm gonna listen to this back and be like, what the fuck was he talking about at this time? Because there's a lot of information that you just conveyed, bro. Like,
No, yeah. After the last breakdown Seal did, like re-listening to the songs, it's way different. I'm
I
like,
do.
well, okay, this is
Even listening to freaking Werewolf in London in the middle of me doing my breakdown, I was like, what
yeah.
the hell? Like, delete it all. Just delete
I
the
get
rest of my
it.
breakdown after he said that one sentence, and I was just like, it's over. Give him, he's the host now. Like,
Bro, I'd be able to yap so much about these songs. I swear to God.
I appreciate it though, because you're able to, it's a different point of view, bro. Like, a lot of us take these words literally and apply them to our lives, but it's like, you're like third person, and it's like not just your life, it's his life, her life, everybody's life. It's, I don't know, it's poetry in motion.
That is a
Yeah.
beautiful way to put it. Yeah.
Honestly,
That's incredible.
it's, yeah, holy fuck.
Yeah, in relation to like Seal extrapolating so much, really the only last thing I had to say about this song was the part where it says no matter what there was hate and they couldn't feel me because they can't relate. Like Seal's explanation of that ended up being actually like the opposite of what the lyrics are saying, and sort of like no, people are listening and there is like what's it called, like at least the lyrics are being understood in personal ways,
Mm-hmm.
and they're being related to in that manner, but also just like even though the lyrics say that they can't feel me because they can't relate, from my perspective it's like even if you don't see anybody else in the world actually understanding you or relating to you, it's like it's almost abundantly true that there is somebody else out there having similar thoughts and having a similar experience in some sense. So it's like you're never alone in that sense. I don't know,
Yeah,
that's just always a
absolutely.
constant truth.
Facts. Couldn't have put that better myself, Heber.
God,
Oh, but I just found it so funny how like you extrapolated that from like the actual
Yeah.
opposite lyrics.
Yeah, no.
that was amazing.
My brain.
God damn. And I got the clip. I got a clip moment of him saying that fucking MPH is better than Comets, bro. Like, come on, bro. Let's go W podcast tonight. All right.
for sure.
Bro, I'm gonna wake up one of these days and see like 7 notifications. It's just gonna be like, what did you say?
What the fuck you say about Comet, bro? What's some my
Did
goons?
you not listen to Coming Forward?
Comet 4. Pow. All right. So, our next song, though I was already excited. Our next song is Breaking the Exosphere. Exosphere. Why can't I say that word, bro? I have a third grade reading level, and I've said it probably 100 times on this stream, bro. Somebody asked me in DMs, do you actually have a? No, I don't. I'm just stupid. All right, especially at 11 o'clock at night, bro. But anyways, this song is one that came out, and like everybody was like, "Holy shit!" So, and it's completely opposite energy of Ugly too. So, like they said earlier, the fact that Heber chose this, and I don't know his reasoning behind it. Heber, why the hell did you choose this song?
Wait, did we ever get why Seal chose Ugly? Or
Did you say why you chose Ugly? I think you.
no?
No, I don't think I did.
Okay, so
I
Sil, why'd you choose? Why'd you choose Ugly?
So I chose Ugly because I thought Pain from the Past show the name that we chose for this. Ugly shows that almost perfectly, but it shows a moment in Miles's life where he tried his hand at honesty that he wasn't used to, and I think it really exemplified a lot of Miles's ability to show multiple aspects of both his brain but also life itself, and he was able to mold those into an entire back to front story, not just about his life but life in general in a sense.
Fuck.
And I really like the Ugly has so much that can be connected to it, both in his catalog and when it comes to emotion as a whole. And I think after going into Breaking the Exosphere myself, you guys will see why Heber picked this song. But if Heber wants to spread some knowledge, I want to hear it.
So I actually didn't pick it in relation to Ugly, but I when you said that they compliment each other, I do absolutely see it. And I'll mention a little bit about it as we get into the breakdown. But the reason why I chose it was just because well, the premise outside of like pain was also just the past, and so I was I guess I was trying to see what song I from the past era, or like early days, that I guess that there was like some strong emotional relation, or at least like just a lot of thoughts that were going on, especially like when listening to it. Obviously it's not like difficult to find that with so many of the songs, but I just found that Breaking the Exosphere, it was pretty like instant whenever I got to Breaking the Exosphere. I was like, yo, this is Loki the one. Cause well, firstly, just because of like the essence of the song, the fact that it's such a like Jabari and Sewer collaboration, and like sort of what that means, and what that means in this song too, and at the time of it coming out, and also the fact that we just got the miles per hour with Jabari. I just felt like this definitely. I just felt like I needed to break it down, or just at least I wanted to, I guess. And after having like this in mind, there wasn't another song that I could really, I guess, choose.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right. So we just heard the reasoning for Sil picking Ugly, the reasoning for Breaking the Exosphere being picked. I caught myself, and I'm gonna play the song now. So I hope everybody enjoys. This is such a legendary song. I remember the day this dropped, and everybody was just like, "WW, they're back! OMG, comment, blah 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 blah." Like, Yeah, everybody instantly jumped to like we're getting another album, which I'm pretty sure didn't we get another album after this?
Not for a while. It was like a 6 months
Aha,
until,
yeah.
like yeah.
All right, so Sewerperson, Jabari on the beat produced. Sewerperson produced by Jabari on the beat, breaking the exosphere. Believe there's a sample doing it too. Yeah, there I go. I'm copyrighted. It's over. Okay.
But I can't see it all. But I got ice water. How you get so cold when I need to get sober? But I can't see it all. Some things never end. Need your vibe happens on the sacred in the wind. That just could be friends. Make you understand. Underneath these lights, just out of cushy on my hand. I'm mixing my jeans. Baby, I want that smoke flows up in a pitch black sky. My eyes roll back and it start to fly. Love falls out when I try to cry. Please don't safe when I'm up so high. Life works so differently without half of me in my company. Parts in place in my memories. Circuitry in my extremities. Electricity in my arteries. Push support for my centerpiece. I'm feeding off of this energy. I transfer all my humanity for the show. Options, girl, you gotta hear me when I'm talking to you. Not too often, it was okay, but when we were, it was so fun to love. Hey, I'll evolve, activate myself inside a tank, come on and off. I want too much sticky, it's impossible to fall. If you don't take the shot, then it's impossible to ball. If you don't hold her down, then she gon' find someone to call. Lately, something changed inside my soul, I'm feeling off. Sit inside my room and started seeing through the walls. Fire in my throat, just keep on burning through the halls. Coughing up this shooting skills are popping on my job. Ancient foreign texts begin to pop up in my thoughts. Symbols of the void begin to surface on my palms. Thought I had some time before I'm back where I belong. Hope my shorty know I won't be gone for very long. I promise you the first to see me soon, I'm laying low. LA summer nights are always harder when alone. Love you, see you soon is always harder from the phone. Fixing what we got is even harder from the tone. Answer me, I know you fucking on. I just want you to see what I hide. I'm 12 feet taller than the thighs. Pale blue skin, no eyes. Flex to treat me right. Crack sky just to eat their minds. I don't even like to fight. So she don't wanna hear it. Damn, hey. I was home alone in a jam. I ain't hit my face and now I remember who I am. Jabari on the beat, already know he going in. Promise on my window, touch it down and scorch the land. I was in my zone going ham. She told me I changed it, don't remember who I am. But I could feel the chakra in my hands. I just got some sewage on my pants. Ninja vibe happens on the sacred in the wind. I just could be friends, make you understand. Underneath these lights, just out of cushy on my hand. I'm mixing my jeans, baby, I want that smoke flows up in a pitch black sky. My eyes roll back and it start to fly. Love falls out when I try to cry. Please don't safe when I'm up so high. Ice water, little how you get so cold when I down to walk, dry sober, I can't see it all. Options with no shopping
when I see you through the glass.
Toxic when you walking, you won't even
Have the ass. It just does.
Need justice, never wanna know why, but it's all good. Every time I see that, so it's justice, woman independent and more.
What a song.
Facts, man. Facts.
Did CO, were you like listening to Sewerperson when this? I mean, surely, right? Yeah. When this dropped.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've been around since like 2017. I just haven't been in Sewercore for that long, you know.
I get you.
Big fan, fake fan. No, I'm kidding. Clearly not. You're doing 3-hour video essays on them, so.
Something like,
Yeah, something like, hey, the whole footage was like 3 hours and 50 minutes, but we also had that 5-minute bathroom break.
Yeah, we had a bathroom break in ours. And me and Dev were like, yo, we gotta keep that in.
Yeah, I kept in when we were both like, all right, cool. Oh shit. All right. My bad. Floor is yours, Mr. Heber.
Well, yeah, I guess first starting off, honestly, it's just like, I guess, huge shout out to Joey 600 for making such a cool cover art, you know. I think it's the first thing you notice, you know. I feel, and it's such a, I mean, so you have the vibrant colors at the top, you know. And obviously, Joey at this point was making quite a few of the cover arts. Um, and then later on, or actually no, right before this, the last project was March of the Undead, and like he even made that. But I think this cover art just brings so much life to the song. Because oh, because of like the just sort of the imagery and the ethos that Sewerperson and Jabari were bringing together, throughout the projects they're releasing. They had Comet 1, Comet 2, and these very like spacey themes, and obviously they had Ghost Stories and a lot of other singles along the way. And so also just wanted to preface this with like the fact that this song is like after like a year and a half of having started working with each other, this is at the point where we clearly see in the song where like they've built this relationship that's unique, you know. And I guess we see that in the very first lyrics here. Some things never end. Mijapari tapped in something sacred in the wind. Um, from my perspective, these first four lines here go extremely well together. I mean, obviously, um, it was I think the some things never end is obviously a nod to like how do you say the I think I would just call it the friendship maybe, or yeah, or even more so just the idea of friendship in that manner, um even if like they per se like don't like talk for a while, it was going to come back, like, and we've seen like in the present day that there's periods where there's like no Jabari songs or whatever, or like I think there's even like some Instagram stories mentioned where it's like we're logged back in, and it's like never left, um but I think specifically I mean the tapping into something sacred in the wind line is just I mean it's such a cool line. And I guess I think the having it be like it- that or sorry, hold on. It's because these lines are actually so crazy in a specific way. Like first you tap into the sacredness in the wind, and that's because they're friends, it's like they go like right a lot, like they follow each other so well. And in fact, like they tapped into something sacred in the wind, and the reasoning is because they're friends. And then fourthly, it's like that is something that cannot be understood by anyone else, except I guess them and that experience that they're having, and so it's like obviously I don't expect you to understand. He says it at the end. So I think that's obviously a nod to like I guess people, I guess even just mentioning things about their work together. It's like obviously it's like you're not gonna understand the relationship there. And like the magic that the scarce thing that was found in the wind. Um, I think first, listening to this back in the day, I thought pretty deeply about the choice of tapping into something sacred in the wind. Not only because like it sounds cool, but it's also because like the rest of the song has like this other really cool imagery of like electricity, like it mentions later. And like I don't know if y'all know this, but like electricity is like in the air or whatever. We just have to like capture it or whatever. So it's like that something sacred in the wind would sort of be like could be like a way of saying like they're capturing lightning in a bottle, and I just thought it was just a really cool way of saying that they locked in a way that's also scarce and also like important, which is also like why the word sacred, it's like it's important in some sense, and it's like that understanding of it, the understanding of this friendship, and why it's like why there's so much goodness in it perhaps. um but yeah, that's I guess like the first four lines there, and my I guess my thoughts on them. Um, Seal, did you think of anything about those first
So
lines?
I had a lot of similar feelings about like kind of how like special like Miles like portrays their friendship to be here. Um, but I kind of touched on the fact that something sacred in the wind kind of lends itself to like the knowledge the that Miles thinks his projects with Jabari have like something very transcendental to them. You know, you see like whenever him and Jabari drop a project, it's the most confident you will ever see him in anything. You know, he has such like unwavering faith in Jabari and his connection and the way that they mesh like when they make music. And I think something that's kind of that lends itself to that is the fact that, even in the intro, he ad libs the Dree Rivers songs with lyrics from RSVP. You
Yes, yes,
know,
yes.
that alone like shows just how important, like he feels like his projects with Jabari kind of are and how special they are. Like using another Jabari project to ad lib, like this song, it really adds to how kind of iconic it feels, like
Yeah,
for this
I
time.
totally forgot to mention that, but I did have a thing on it. It's also the fact that it's like a song from Comet One, like the
Yeah,
beginnings of like their relationship, or specifically like and it's a little further down too, a little after K, K being like the first Jabari song, and then there was like some singles, but then there was like this is specifically from Comet One,
yeah,
and after having worked with Jabari a few more times and possibly like at that point like actually having been in contact because he mentioned before that he just grabbed the beat off of YouTube and ran with it, and then Jabari came in contact. So at this point it's like perhaps that's when the friendship started, or really being.
yeah, absolutely. I think it shows kind of like just how important like their connection is to him specifically. Like
Oh yeah, and also gives like
there's
such
not.
a, or I was just gonna say
No,
it
go,
adds
go.
to the atmosphere to the
Yeah,
song.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. It really lends itself to a lot of things like the atmosphere and kind of
Because the first thing you
the
hear, it's like wow.
yeah. Like it's like like it's Jabari. We hear Comet One, mixed with an already great sample by itself, and then we kick off with these lines, and it's like that's what their collaborations are all about. It's about that energy and that connection. Yeah.
I think it's also like very like shout out to Jabari because like from my understanding it's like a lot of Jabari's like beginning career or just a lot of it was like he prided himself in taking samples from like a lot of like vocalist songs and like making a beat with it, or I know I've heard him talk about it in a couple interviews and so it's like here we get two samples, it's like one from actual like Sewerperson and then making that just I think he just really adds to the message or whatever.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But if we're all good to go to the next part.
Yeah. Go
But
for it.
yeah, so this next part underneath these so I kind of take it as this next part would be like this is where we begin to hear like there's sort of like another story going on outside. Like the first story would be like the just sort of talking about Jabari and like the I guess the importance of the friendship, but there's also like a different storyline happening throughout the song, as it regards to like a relationship we'll see here. Underneath these underneath these lights inside the club, she hold my hand, lime mix in my gin, baby, I want that again. Smoke floats up in the pitch black sky, my eyes roll back and I start to fly. Blood falls out when I start to cry. At least I'm safe when I'm up so high. Um, Well, I guess I didn't have too much to say about this other than just like the really I guess awesome imagery that we get, but also how do I say this is I guess this is the beginning of I guess the second story that I was mentioning. I guess I'll say more about this. I guess the further we get down. Um, Basil, did you have anything to say about these lines here?
So I think like when I heard this is when I noticed kind of was is when I started noticing like the connections or like what clicked for me between this song and Ugly. We have that yearning like in the bulk of this line, like underneath these lights, she inside a club, she on my hand, lie next to my gin, baby, I want that again. Like it's a yearning for connection,
Mhm.
and then it's a yearning for that, the freedom of the weight, a lot of the weights that he had himself, and that's why he would kind of go into these things where he put himself in places that technically we see the end of Ugly, like he understands that those wouldn't be safe for him now, But like here, it's like, he's putting himself in these places of yearning because it's a default for him. It's unhealthy, but it's a net for him. And I think like the end of this chorus here, the blood falls out when I start to cry. Oh, sorry, when I try to cry. At least I'm safe when I'm up so high. That's the big like indicator of, like, to me at least, like this is where ugly comes in, because you know it's a reference. It's an early reference to his issue with substance abuse, and he used them so readily to kind of protect himself, and a lot of the weight that, like, from protect himself from himself, and from like the weight that encumbers him when he is sober. But the idea that blood here falls in place of the tears is very strange, but offers kind of like a unique perspective on Miles's headspace during the time. Because tears are usually something that are quite symbolic of cleansing. They're very pure, and it's been evident so many times from between like the present day and then. Miles has used a lot of imagery to do with tears. Um, and it's always for a very pure purpose to indicate something kind of very very specific. But here it's replaced with blood, which kind of insinuates that even crying cannot help wash away the things he views as sinful. I think it's also very important to note, this is a very side note, but prolonged substance abuse has been linked to causing hematolacria, which literally means crying blood, which in some cases, and adds another layer to this bar, making it that much more meaningful.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with like it also like not helping whenever he's trying to cry, but also the fact that like when he does try to cry, it actually makes things worse, like almost like feeding into it, and then right after, obviously saying that he's like safe, being up high.
Yeah.
Obviously, like a little tiny callback to what we were just saying about like ugly and like life would have sucked if he chose to be safe. Not exactly the same in this situation, but it is in the same theme.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not that they obviously like are seeking something different, but they share some similar themes that help kind of make them go well together in a sense.
But what I was gonna, and I'll mention this, I guess, more as we go through, but he's talking about a specific person here. I guess I just call it a relationship, I guess, and I think of like we'll see later on, this relationship is sort of like, I guess, it's sort of the opposite of like the relationship that he describes he has with Jabari in some sense. So it's sort of like two sides of like a good relationship, bad relationship maybe. But like right in this next line, we say, life works so differently without half of me of my company. Um, First of all, it's just like such a fire line. I think it's just super relatable for anybody that's like been in a relationship and like gets out of a relationship. And obviously initially I took that as just that experience of losing a partner, aka your other half, and then life just ends up working differently after. But this also plainly tells us that in the story, that the relationship didn't work out. And later in the song, we get a little more glimpses of the story. Um, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Then this next part, it's kind of crazy, and I think it's super awesome how he talks about and how he talks about it, and how like it all flows and builds up in the song. Um, it's such a characterizing part of the song, I think. But here we have, all right, or Seal, did you want to say anything about the life works so differently without having me in my company?
Um, so I kind of have something about like all these lines together, so I'll let
Oh,
you
yeah.
finish.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Oh, okay. I didn't include the half of me in my company, but I do get why you connected them. But I think it really starts here in the I got parts in place of my memories. Well, obviously just like because obviously here he's gonna just start talking about just straight up sort of becoming a cyborg in some sense. Here in the first half, or the first part of it, is I got parts in place of my memories, just sort of either saying that there is like mechanical or just technology near his brain, or just like the basic like brain chip. Um, or at least that's how I interpreted it. And then obviously the next line, you see circuitry in my extremities. Um, it's just like further kind of giving you the vision that there is like some sort of tech throughout his body, extremities just being like the different parts of your bodies. Um, and then next, electricity in my arteries, you know, all this is just giving like such a vivid, crazy imagery of like throughout the whole body, just actually like transforming into like sort of robot. And then obviously we have big crystal core for my centerpiece. I'm feeding off of its energy. I transfer out my humanity for this shit. And I'm fully saying it at the end that he's transferring out his humanity. And I think it's such a cool visual. And imagining his centerpiece would be like, or I took the centerpiece as like his heart, and it's like sort of entirely replaced by this big crystal core that he now calls it. And this is sort of like the saying, sort of like the metaphor of transferring out humanity for this big crystal core or whatever it have it be. Um, Seal, did you think that like the half of me was like the did you interpret it that differently?
So I under like I understood how you interpreted it,
I
but so to me it kind of like this was very like symbolic of his disconnection from like his humanity at this time,
Mhm.
and it kind of talks about how differently he feels about life when he's sober versus when he's high, you know suggesting that sobriety requires so much more difficulty in terms of navigating life, and that being high offers him much more freedom. Hence, without half of me in my company, without the weightful half, the parts of me that are heavy, everything's so much more different. Like life doesn't function the same as when I'm all me, you know. And I went on to kind of say that breaking the exosphere here highlights the grim positives that feel like a saving grace in some of the most trying times of his life, all while regarding the way in which substances changed him physically and manifest in a way that make him much less human, similar to the way he kind of views himself in general, you know. And I think it's very important, going like off the imagery of like the circuitry and kind of like you said, here it's like he's turning himself into a cyborg. This is kind of Miles's earliest use case of using inorganic things to replace the organic human parts of himself, to reflect kind of the damages of substance abuse, and how even though substances are inorganic in a sense, they're still the only thing that help him function organically on a regular basis. And I think it's just an insanely well placed juxtaposition between the two things. How things that are inherently not meant to be a part of him are the only things that could help him feel human and feel alive for a while.
Yeah, I like that you view it that way. I guess I'm glad to have your thoughts on this because also like you broke down techno animism, and obviously that song deals with I
Yeah.
guess a similar concept, and I know you mentioned this is like one of the first times that he's mentioned this, but actually I think or at least the first time that I noticed he mentioned sort of a similar idea of sort of just sort of like transhumanism or just becoming like humans gaining sort of machine parts would be from like satellites in Ninetales. Like he
Oh,
sort of mentions like the soldier that sort of has the brain chip, and
yeah,
then
you're so right.
I get it but I always saw that as like just like him trying storytelling or whatnot. But I eventually did also see it that the way that you're describing it now, I guess the what is it? So metaphorically, you know.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of, and also now that you mentioned satellites, you're so right. Like this is, yeah, this isn't like the first time, but it's like one of his earliest times, especially as
Yeah,
a
for sure.
sewer person. And I think like you said, like this is kind of him telling his hand at storytelling for kind of the first time, and this kind of like to look at it like that, like we went from this to techno animism in a sense, you know, from his storytelling,
Yeah, no,
like
that's
kind of
crazy.
the shift there, and the kind of the way in which hi- the way in which he understands words and the gravity that they have now compared to then kind of shows a lot of the ways in which he like the different ways he associates words now compared to then too. Like
Yeah.
very much like in his earlier days, his kind of his word choice was intent on drawing focus to a specific idea. However, now he's a lot more invested in the overall imagery. He likes the lines to be connected, but they also have to flow in such a way that they create this overarching narrative. A lot like chapter 6. You know, we have that insane kind of verse in chapter 6 where like it's one of his best cases of that. You know.
Yeah, I thought of like just the entire Very Bad People album as just like even further evolution of it. But yeah, no, I definitely the other lines just like such a clear example of it, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, if we I guess we could keep going here. Um, and now here we got a little bit more remarks about the relationship from my perspective. He says, "You got options, girl. You got to hear me when I'm talking to you. Not too often. We was okay, but when we were, it was so fun to love you." Um, Here we just get insight of what it was like. I guess um, the the girl has options. I guess, and I don't know if I interpreted this as like having like options in terms of like people. Obviously, it could be interpreted that way, but it's almost like options on what to listen to, I guess. Because he like right after he sends like "Hear me when I'm talking to you." I assume he has to say that because he's not being felt heard, you know. Um, and it's similar to I guess like earlier in the song he says, "I don't expect you to understand," but obviously and also in Ugly, I guess Ugly was like released like over a year later, but it's still like the same idea of not being able to be understood. Or from Ugly, I got that from like the she gave me the gist, but I can't hear.
But I can't hear. Yeah.
Um, or what's it? Sorry, not that. There was another line that was more like dang, what was it? Do you know what line I'm talking about? It was
Wait.
dang.
Um. Oh man. Um. I know exactly what line you're talking about. I'm so frazzled from that song right now.
Hmm. Well,
But
you guys know what I mean, dude. But basically, just the feeling of not being understood again. Where was I? Here we go. Oh, we was okay when we were, but oh, not too often we was okay, but when we were, it was so fun to love you. It's just such a, I feel like relatable remark. Do you have anything on those lines, Seal? Before I move on.
I think I do also kind of connect that to a lot of the sentiment in Ugly where in Ugly he was being selfish and kind of obviously like it's a year on from then, so there's a lot of there's quite a difference in maturity between then and now. But Ugly deals with it. He's like, oh, I understood that there was there was people for me to listen to, I just couldn't. But here it's kind of that feeling of isolation in which he feels like there really isn't anyone. And like, he's like, you got options. He's like, there there's places for you to go, there's avenues for you to go down that I don't have available to me to protect myself or to help myself. And you kind of see the disparity from his point of view, that he feels like people experience things a lot differently to him, in kind of like in terms of like safeguarding anyway. Like he finds it much more harder to protect himself, whereas he views people outside of his shell to have like more readily available like options and things to kind of latch onto.
I see. Okay. Well, I guess we just keep going.
Yeah, you can keep
Uh,
going. Yeah.
right. So this next part, I'll evolve. I feel like just this is the beginning of what leads us into like an amazing series of bars, and it goes through with this flow that just leads up to such a cool climax. Towards the end of this, I think it's such a big moment in the song, and that all starts here at the "I'll Evolve," and it's also just a great like line. "I'll evolve" is just sort of like just plainly putting it. I think there was also an evolve line in Ugly, wasn't there? What's, oh yes, we all
Yeah,
evolve,
we
we all
all
decay.
evolve. Yeah.
um, so like here it's a little different. It's just it's sort of like the confidence that he will. But also it kind of goes into what he's gonna be saying right after, or at least my interpretation of it. So we get I'll evolve, activate myself inside this tent, come one and all. I think what he's saying, activate myself inside this tent, come one and all. I think it's a little more than just the next line where he says, "I smoke too much sticky, it's impossible to fall," which is just I mean, it's a great bar, but also it's a little more than just him smoking weed. I think or I interpreted like activate myself inside this tent, come one and all, as sort of like him talking about going on some sort of psychedelic trip, just because like the a tent is a very like stereotypical location where like those situations happen, and often on those types of experiences there's often reports of like this feeling of becoming oneness, or and here it says come one and all, you know. So that's why I guess the beginnings of were the beginnings of why I interpreted it that way, but we see later on a bit more, obviously. And obviously alongside that in the next line, I smoke too much sticky, it's impossible to fall. Um, it's like the trip seems to be accompanied by that. And then obviously the next line right after is super sick. If you don't take this shot, then it's impossible to ball. I mean, it's such a cool line. I think it's super quotable in some sense. Um, because it's just mad heat, mad truth, you know. Um, so I think that line itself is also just a big moment. Just listening to it, it's another one of those moments where it's like you're listening to a song, even if you're not paying attention to it. This probably will catch you. And then the next line, a lot of these lines actually, but and then the line right after, it's if you don't hold her down, she gonna find someone to call. Um, it's sort of like reinforcing the idea of like if you're not really down to be the other half of somebody, then they will go with somebody who will, you know. Um, and I guess perhaps that like might have been like what happened in a relationship. I don't know. But and then we have lately something's changed inside my soul. I'm feeling off. Sit inside the room and start seeing through the walls. And this is where I think we start to get a bit more tellings of the trip. Right after it says fire in my throat, just keep on burning through the halls. I assume could be related to like the smoking, you know. 'Cause right after he mentions coughing up this soot and scales are popping on my jaw. Obviously, coughing up this soot, you might just be smoking something else also, but also scales popping on my jaw is very much like it's like assumes like I assume I take that as like a visual hallucination, you know. That's like not not a normal thing, or at least what did you think about these lines so far, Seal?
So I didn't have too much about like between like AI will evolve to if you don't hold her down, she gonna find someone to call. That to me is kind of in a sense he's calling back to some of the previous lines. Like you said though, AI will evolve is incredible. That's like that's one of those incredible like Miles moments of lucidity where he's like, you're not ready for what I'm about to do. He does that so often, like this is one of those great use cases where he's and then he's like, activate myself inside this tent, come one and all. I loved what you said about oneness, and I think that actually, like the whole trip kind of narrative adds like a lot more positiveness, like to kind of it. And I think it's this shows the fun side to substances, and like a lot of the positives that like doing drugs and the highs have, like breaking the exosphere is incredible at highlighting the highs while mitigating the lows, and that's almost the opposite of ugly. And that's what, when you put these two songs together, it's like you get the highest of highs with breaking the exosphere and the lowest of lows with ugly. So, he's like, him saying, I'll activate myself inside this tank, come one and all. To me, that's kind of a callback to, like him talking about the the big crystal core for his centerpiece. It's like I'm gonna use this to feel like myself again. And he's here, like this is like what he wants people to witness. He wants people to witness the highest of highs for him, which follows in with like the AL evolve, like like this is his evolution, but his evolution is still tied to his highest of highs at this point. Um, and then you have the if you don't hold her down, then she gonna find someone to call. I think, to me, I took that line as kind of being very intent on saying the idea that in his experience, when he's unable to be present, someone else is going to be present in his stead, and that's kind of his hamartia. That's his fatal flaw. Like there's times where he cannot be around because there's something in his brain that won't let him be present, whatever it is, and that's when he starts losing pieces of himself and relationships and people around him. Um, then the last three lines, you have lately something changed inside my soul. I'm feeling off. Sit inside my in my room and start seeing through the walls. Fire in my throat just keep on burning through the halls. This is where I see a shift in Miles's feelings about like the highs, because it seems he starts noticing they're getting mitigated, and rather than riding the high that eliminated a lot of the misery that he would have felt, it starts kind of dulling, and he starts feeling hollow instead, and he's getting replaced with this kind of emptiness that seems way more realer than he could ever be prepared for after these highest highs. uh One of the things that represents the hollowness so well is, like the fire in my throat just keep on burning through the halls. Like that's recognition that, like, you take a drink and it's really warm, and it's going through your system. Like here, that's all he can feel. He doesn't feel the buzz like from the alcohol. All he can feel is this discomfort that his body is emphasizing, because he's got nothing left in his brain that's riding this high, and he's got to sit on this burning sensation as a reminder that he's alive here, and that's all he is.
It's interesting when you describe that as like being a hollow eye. Like I would have never interpreted it like that, I guess. No, but I totally see it, like in terms of like, or why that. I definitely wanted to ask you like why do you view it as like being hollow? But I totally get it now. I guess the way that you describe that.
So I think one of the biggest identifiers for hollowness here is completely unrelated to the song, but techno animism has that same, I'm staring through the walls, you
Hmm.
know, which is a very big indicator of hollowness. He's used it before, he's
To
used it
think of that.
recently. So yeah, so seeing this here, I was like, oh, like this is another kind of use case of that, where hollowness is related to his ability to kind of like zone out of things.
Yeah, I guess I also didn't even understand what hollowness meant until you described it actually. But yeah, I totally see it. I think it even goes on to, I guess, overlay the next couple lines as well, maybe. Like just because it says
Oh yeah,
ancient for intent text begin to pop up in my thoughts. I mean, that's like, well, how much more hollow do you get? That's like nothing, or almost. But obviously, it's like it is something.
yeah. I have
Um, you
So
have something to say.
I almost forgot, like, the coughing up, the Sutton scales are popping out my
Oh yeah.
jaw.
Oh.
To me, that was like another thing that was kind of like symbolic of the change period for Miles, where he
Mhm.
notices like the effectiveness of all the substances that he's riding highs from, like falling off, because it encapsulates this change from comfort the lines before the last couple are, it's very comfortable. It's talking about evolving, becoming something new. Like it's very positive. Here, it's like he's coughing up the soot, and scales are popping out my jaw. Like he has soot like kind of entangled with so much negative imagery in his discography. So this is kind of
Mm.
another instance of that here, where like it's an unpleasantness from like the reality of everything. Now that all is left is emptiness.
Yeah, I totally would have never seen it that way either. Wow, yeah, I totally get that though. Like, the way that you said, like his bringing his discography into this and like the words that he said, you know, and metaphoricalizing that. I guess that's really cool. Uh, But if we, I guess we keep going here. Ancient foreign texts begin to pop up in my thoughts. Symbols of the void begin to surface on my palms. Thought I had some time before I'm back where I belong. I mean, those are just some crazy cool visuals. And I guess the symbols of the void begin to surface on my palms also adds to the idea of like hollowness, just because like symbols of the void being like, I mean, the void is like nothingness, and it's like symbols of nothingness, showing up in some sense. And like, or I took it from ancient foreign text too, because I'd assume seeing ancient foreign text, you're not gonna understand any of it, just because it's so old, or like, but just the fact that you think it is there though. And also, I think just adds more to like my reasoning for thinking that it was like a hallucinogenic or like a psychedelic trip. Is just because like th- these are crazy things to say, and also like I thought I had some time before I'm back where I belong. It just could be to say that he thought the trip would be he'd have more time before the trip was over. I'd assume. Um, I don't know. Did you see that differently, Seal? I thought I had some time before I'm back where I
Uh,
belong.
So I actually saw like the ancient foreign text line and
Oh
the two lines after that
yeah,
so completely differently.
not for sure.
Um, like obviously like the way you're understanding is, yeah, it's so real, it's so vivid, it's very true. Like it's actually probably more likely than the way I envision this. But to me, like the ancient foreign texts that are like popping up like in his thoughts are like old memories resurfacing that no
Gotcha.
longer feel like him or resemble the way he once viewed
Mhm.
himself, like when the song was coming into fruition.
I
And the
see.
him of the past feels completely foreign and unrecognizable, but there's still fragments that come and try to make themselves known and serve as reminders. And then leading on from that, we have symbols of the void begin to surface on my palms. Like to me, this is gonna get a little bit dark, but symbols of the void seems like an intentionally metaphorical line that seems harmless on the surface, but kind of feels like a metaphor for self-harm. Symbols being the self-harm, and the void being like the dark recesses of his mind that overcome him. And this is like
Good.
how he would search like for release. I don't want to get too deep into it, but like there is a method for that that includes ice cube and palms. Like it's considered safe harm. Not to not to get the podcast taken down, so I won't go deeper than that.
Yeah, stop right
Um,
there.
yeah, I'll just get yeah. So
How about I know
and
that?
then
Yeah, get that.
and then he's got thought I had some time before I'm back where I belong. Like that kind of shows that he's disappointed that his escape from reality is escaping him, and now he's being like everything's being dredged up, and this is where he has to like face things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally get that. I think a lot of people would also see that last line that way, or even actually the symbols of the void line. I think actually some other people might even interpret it the same way that you did as well. I totally see that now. But we keep going here. Here we have next. Hope my shorty Noah won't be gone for very long. I promise you the first to see me soon. I'm laying low. Um, Here we're back to like relationship talk, And I assume that this was like maybe him not wanting her to know that he was or that our how do I say he was just being or him not either him not wanting him to know or not wanting her to know that he was like on this trip. So he's like, hope she just won't notice that I'm gone for like this very long period of time, or just simply being apologetic. The fact that it was a very long time, not the fact that they like know or not, just the fact that they were gone, like mentally gone for like a period of time, I guess. Because when you're on like these hallucinating these psychedelic trips, it's like it's possible for you not to be here per se, like not literally not here, I guess. Um, so he's like apologetic for being mentally gone here, and then because of that, he's like committing to like as soon as possible, like seeing them. Um, and here we have next, LA summer nights are always harder. And this is sort of like the where we're closing in on like I guess the climax I would call it of the song. Is like LA summer nights are always harder when alone. Love you, see you soon is always harder from the phone. Fixing what we got is even harder from the tone. Answer me, I know you fucking home. Like those lines go crazy in the song, and it's also just like such a build up, I mean, it's just such an awesome climax. I thought, and also just I mean, because of that, it just hits so hard. I guess. I almost feel like I have nothing to like say about it other than just like the fact that it's so great and well done. Um, and I think, well, for me, and it is the part that I guess sticks out from the song the most for me, just because of like the delivery, I think. But I don't know, did you have any further thoughts on that, too?
I think I can have like a general thing for this whole like last segment. So if you want to go through like,
Okay, okay.
because yeah,
Um, Answer me, I know you fucking home. I just want you to see what I hide. Um, Here's obviously he actually does want her to know like 'cause earlier I had like the possibility like that he doesn't want her to know about like the trip, but obviously here we have confirmation that he does want her to know everything that he hasn't been saying. In Ugly we mentioned how like being afraid to like speak like the truth self because like then they like nobody would be here, but here it's like actually he wants to share that side. And he wants to like be fully vulnerable in some sense. um but the next lines right after, he says, I'm 12 feet tall from the thighs, pale blue skin, no eyes. I mean, that's such a crazy visual of like sort of either like his self-perception of himself or just simply like um obviously it's, it's a crazy visual. I mean, it's almost like just seeing Slender Man or something. But pale or well, outside of the blue skin, but just the no eyes, being pale. But later we see, this flesh doesn't treat me right. Crack skulls just eat their minds, and I don't even like to fight, but she don't want to hear it. Damn, is like I guess like the sort of I guess where we see her reaction to like him trying to trying to share himself maybe, but he maybe not he didn't even get that far because she doesn't want to hear it. Or maybe as far as he got was trying to describe something so crazy as I'm 12 feet tall from the thighs, pale blue skin, no eyes. Perhaps like coming right out after the trip, and earlier them mentioning that they want to see them as soon as possible, as soon as they're able to, so like right after the trip is over, they go and explain some like ridiculous things. And so she's like, I don't want to hear this, and maybe it's because she also can't hear it, like she doesn't understand it, and I think we kind of get a bit more on that a little later, or just in the next couple lines. But Seal, you said you wanted to speak on this whole
yeah.
section here.
So kind of this whole section to me was like a very vivid depiction of like Miles's struggles with like navigating external perceptions of himself and also like his issues with navigating relationships in general. The first few lines kind of indicate, that he believes that when he's sober, he's not the person that people love when he's high. You know, sober Miles is this completely different animal, and it's not representative of Miles when he's unencumbered. You know, hence why he says, "I hope my shorty know I won't be gone for very long." Like, you know, I hope she knows
Oh,
like that this isn't me. I could,
I
I'll
get
go
you.
back to the way she knows me soon. You know, showing that he does, it's he doesn't intend to remain sober for very long. You know, like
Hmm.
he wants to be more himself so that so that he can fit in this like perception of him that feels comfortable. Um, and I think like another thing that lends itself to that is like the I'm 12 feet tall from the thighs, pale blue skin, no eyes, flesh doesn't treat me right. It's that like alienation that that he probably feels when he is sober, and he's got all these like perceptions like clouding his mind that kind of shift a lot of the ways he views himself, and it completely obscures the humanity and leaves him with this almost like alien kind of, like you said, like almost Slender Man looking life form that just feels almost like a corpse.
Hmm.
I also think that you know the latter half of this shows a lot more like the relationship struggles and kind of the battles he faces when he is trying to be like honest and vulnerable with the people he does enter into relationships with. A lot of the word choices like in the final lines do well to like encompass the nature of the exposure that he probably feels when he does try to be vulnerable, and
Hmm.
it shows a lot of just how raw like he is when he's sober, when he's sober, and he is kind of like grounded in reality that's unpleasant. You know, like a lot of the word choice, like like crack skulls just to eat their minds, like like peeling, like that's this imagery of peeling back like like a protective shell. Flesh doesn't treat me right, like the skin that I'm trapped in. It doesn't feel like me type thing, and it really like the words are so deep and lend themselves to that feeling of exposure.
Yeah, when you I was just thinking about the cracked skulls just to eat their minds was sort of because I didn't really understand that at first. But right now I'm kind of thinking about it as like having to put so much work into seeing somebody for who they really are, like, breaking into their skull and then, eating their mind to actually see, to see what their mind really is like, Um, but obviously, I guess, or right after, I don't even like to fight. But I also interpret it as like that's what he's saying to the girl in the relationship, but she's like, what the fuck are you saying? Like, um,
Yeah.
because yeah, when I first started, I'm like, what the fuck are you saying? Crack skulls just to eat their mind, Like,
See that, like, yeah, no, like that was a crazy one for me too going into it, 'cause I'm like bro, like bro, what are you saying? But like when you kind of put it like that, like it has like like yeah, he has to do so much just to feel like he belongs and feel like he understands people, you know, which with such like fucking like inherently like gory imagery, it kind of adds this layer where it's like no one else has to go through this. Why do I have to live through such like a gritty reality where I have to try so much harder to indulge in other people the way they try to indulge in me so freely?
I totally feel you. But yeah, we keep going here. I was home alone in a jam. Rain hits my face. I remember who I am. Well, I mean, what's it called? I guess right after the she don't want to hear it. Damn, goes home alone in the gym. Or but the rain hits my face, and I remember who I am. Is I kind of thought it was like the fact that he's like sewer person. I guess and like I guess the rain could like clear it out in some sense, and sort of like just you see the person. I guess who I am. In some sense. But also, before I thought of that, it was more so like the rain it was the thing in this moment, in this night, that allowed him to remember who he is, or I guess just the idea, the concept that something as simple as like being outside and like nature hitting you in just such a random way can remind you of something that you may have forgotten. That's like the initial thought of it, but then I thought of like the super person aspect, especially because later on we get the mention of sewage and all. But yeah, rain hits my face. I remember who I am. Jabari on the beat. You already know we going in. Comments out my window, touching down, scorched the land. Firstly, bringing back mentions of Jabari, just to reinforce how much this song is, you know, about Jabari and also like with Jabari in some sense. Obviously the comment out my window touching down scorched the land. Clear shout out to comment. I don't think it's anything else. But I was in my zone going ham. She told me I changed. She don't remember who I am. I could feel the chakra in my hands. I just got some sewage in my pants. Um, it's a pretty big line here at the end. I think she told me I changed. She don't remember who I am. It's a clear telling that like she didn't understand a single word that he was trying to explain of who he was, and also this is her response is like, I don't even recognize you anymore. Um, but obviously Miles in this next lines feels, but I could feel the chakra in my hands. Like this sort of like the line in my perspective is him saying like, no, this is I can still feel myself being me. Like I still am the person that I am. Like nothing's changed. It's just I just have some sewage on my pants, you know, and that obviously that sewage, we mentioned earlier about the idea of having sewage on his pants, but that's I guess the being tainted part, obviously. But despite that, taintingness, or at least here, he still understands his core, I guess, of who he truly is. And also, but a part of that core is also not just what he feels inside the chakra, but also the sewage on his pants on the outside. That is also included in the whole of him. And so I think it's a really big shout to mention that. But yeah, I don't know. What did you think, Cyril, about these last couple?
you know like when you start talking about that last line, I thought, Heber knows he's gonna lock on to really what I was locking onto. But yeah, I'm kind of glad you didn't, because that line is so, it's so existential in his entire career. Those last two lines are just, yeah, wow, instrumental. But you have the 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 rain hit my face and I remember who I am. This is very kind of simple. Like rain is something that's, if you feel rain on like a summer day, for example, or when you're feeling sad, it hits your face. It's refreshing. It's revitalizing. I almost see like the rain hitting him, like rain hitting his face, and he's remembering who I am. Is it's refreshing his perspective. It's grounding him. It's kind of pulling him back into himself, and it starts off like this whole scheme of like him reconciling with himself, because he goes on to Jabari on the beat. You already know we're going in. Comments on my window, touchdown to scorch the land, and I was in my zone going ham. You know, right off the bat, there we have the same kind of callbacks to the beginning of the song, where he's being very appreciative of of his connection with Jabari, um, and it kind of shows the how iconic and impactful Miles like anticipated this song to be. Amongst all of their collaborative songs prior to this, like you can clearly tell something in this song feels like a catalyst and defining moment for like the future ways that they go on to kind of like work together, and kind of it's like a hint at how prevalent Miles believes like his and Jabari's collaborations will be, and kind of the way the way in which it's a pivotal moment for the two of them. The comments out my window, you know, touching down to scorch the land, that's like obviously a callback to, like, you know, like, listen, this is where we were, you know. I'm still right here. I still know the old me. But also in that same line, you know, that's a callback to, you know, his like sampling himself at the beginning. So he's got a cool little callback there. And then, you know, she told me I changed, she don't remember who I am. I kind of anticipated this as the, you know, uh like way back when, like, as Miles made this transition, he was met with a lot of like feedback where people were like, you know, like, I don't even know who you are anymore, like, anymore. You were supposed to be this sad guy that I used to know you as, you know. Like, this is like this is like all these like old like fans of Ninetales kind of coming out of the woodwork and kind
Mhm.
of presenting themselves in this way, like he's unrecognizable, like we don't know what you've become, kind of thing. um but then it bleeds into these incredible lines, you know. He's like, but I could feel the chakra in my hands, you know. Like, I would just say before I analyze these two lines are the most iconic bars of Miles's career, like, period, for a very simple reason, especially at this point, because it features an insane reference both to his past and his present and his future, while still being able to boast like the most incredible wordplay. You know, line one, you've got, but I could feel the chakra in my hands, which shows a juxtaposition between positive balances that chakra brings, and shows that despite all the ways in which he's changed, this is the most grounded way he's ever felt in his life, both within the song, you know, and writing in general. But it also acts as a reference to Miles's former persona, Ninetales, with the fact that in Naruto, not only does Karama, the Ninetales, use chakra, but is made entirely of chakra, meaning that Miles feels completely at one with both parts of himself. And then line two continues to muddy the centering and the acceptance of the way he was when he was Ninetales by throwing in a reminder to himself and to everyone else that, you know, he's come to terms with his past, but this is who he is now, and this is the way he's moving towards, and this is how he will evolve.
Yeah, yeah, I totally, I kind of agree, bro. These are the kind of the best lines ever. Like, no, but yeah, dude. I totally didn't even think about like the nine tails relation to the chakra bar, but yeah, I totally see that.
God damn.
Damn.
God damn.
I'm all at war, bro. My throat's dying. Jeez, bro. Yeah, I love those lines. You know, when I was kind of
For sure.
researching all that, yeah, that was insane.
Damn.
Danny with the Karama gif. Yo.
Unlocking Karama. Word. We got anything left? Any notes
Um,
left?
pros- Pretty much it's just we got the chorus. That's just back to bringing it back to Jabari. Just a massive shout out to Jabari on this. Definitely. I just want to mention the chorus is super important on this song for sure. Uh, no, yeah, just have a lot of love for this song. I think it's really awesome, all that it conveys and all that it's able to output. Um, how well made it was.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Um, any last notes, guys? For anything?
That's that's me done for my
Yeah,
notes on both of those.
pretty much. That was that was
That was,
a
that was a
wrap.
trip, bro.
That was a
Yeah.
trip, sure.
Well, guys, you have now taken a trip into Sill's universe Heber's universe and Syl and Heber's universe together. Um, Fantastic job on your guys' breakdowns. I'm out of water too, and I
Yes, yeah.
haven't talked. I've just been sitting here fucking dumbfounded at more than half of the crap you guys pulled out of your. I don't know how. I don't know how. Both of you guys had different insight on each of the songs and bounced the ideas off of each other. Um, Great job with your conversations. Great job with your breakdowns. Um, I'm definitely gonna play it back and see what I missed, because there's a lot of information there. Um,
Yeah, we
Fuck,
said a
dude.
lot.
Yo, thank you guys, bro. Thank you guys for coming
Yeah, thank
on.
you, Deborah,
Um,
for sure.
for those who enjoyed,
Always, bro.
for those who enjoyed this week, are we still next? Okay, next week. Next week, the homies will be back. This is Pain from the Past. Next week is Poetry from the Present. And these are plays on the From Pain to Poetry series that we had started. I didn't put it in the title because I didn't want a title that was 10 million letters long. Like, it'll be in the description, but um, I think they're doing a great job conveying, keeping the theme. The songs were opposite vibes of each other, but had elements of each other inside of them. That was cool to break apart and tie together two songs that are on opposite sides of the spectrum, you know? One's really upbeat and one's like so slow, mellow, Eric Godlow bedrock music, bro. You know, like that's how I explain the dream hoppings. Like that's bedrock music to me. That's shit that I'm okay to listen to while I'm wrapped up in my covers on a day that it's 84 and sunny outside, but I don't want to see the light. It's not I can't see the light. I don't want to see the light. And then you have breaking the exosphere. Jeez, fuck. Fuck. Um that's just a banger. Number 1. Number 2, it came out when we needed it most. Um Everybody was on their toes, like, where's Bari, bro, and he was like, huh, me and Jabari back.
Despite them dropping so much the whole fucking year.
Yeah, literally, like, fucking crazy. Yeah, guys, I'm not gonna hold up the viewers any longer. I just thanks for coming on the podcast. Next week, episode 15, Pain, poetry from the present, poetry in the present. Jesus Christ. Yeah, next week, episode 15, poetry from the present, poetry in the present. We will be back. I don't know what songs yet, so I'm not gonna say the songs. We'll talk about it. I got 2 songs to end the podcast here. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Long live this time. Long live. So shout out to everybody who enjoys long form content. We've had
Sure,
pretty
thank you
much
guys for coming out.
yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys for real.
Yeah, we've
You
had
know,
pretty
I be
much
yapping.
the same amount of viewership all the way through. So people are, if not engaged, they're at least listening or giving the channel the engagement. I'm 100% sure that people are going to watch this tomorrow and be like, God damn, you guys cooked. And the day after and the day after. And I still get messages like, yo, my friend told me, he was just like, yo, I had to watch Sill's episode in 3 parts. And it's like, but as long as you get it, you get it, bro. So yeah. Without further ado, first song that I'm going to play, What If by Sewerperson.
We gotta smile, bro.
Yo,
Gotta smile, bro.
Yo,
Yeah, this is an iconic moment for us, bro.
ready? Let's give him a good smile, bro. Okay. All right. I hope you guys got that. If you didn't get that, we'll get that in the live afterwards, and I'll post it. Question, please, for the week.
Yeah.
Yo, bro, I ain't gonna lie. My questions and my submissions keep flopping, so I'm not gonna keep doing it to myself. just to be real. I want to keep everybody engaged and everything, but if I'm only getting 1-2 answers, I'm going to compile something probably not for next week, but the week after, where I'll go through all of the past submissions and everything, bro. But yeah, I wanted to do a community playlist for this. I know you answered questions. I got your submissions, bro. They're in the submissions channel, I promise. But there's been a lack of, everybody submitting. We had a couple really good community engagement episodes where it was like 15-20 submissions, and then if I ask a question it only gets like one. It's kind of like I can't dedicate a segment to it, but we do have probably enough. I'll plan for the 23rd. I'll plan for the 23rd to go through the last of the submissions that I've gotten. And if you do music, hit the artist submissions link, bro. What is wrong with y'all, bro? I am giving you a platform. Like, why is there only one new submission in the last 3 weeks for artists, bro? Like, what's going on? Anyways, I'm gonna stop talking trash to my I know most of y'all, I know a lot of y'all make music, bro. Like, all right. Anyways, yeah, don't be shy, for real. The worst thing that's gonna happen is I turn it down to 50. Like, that's literally the worst thing that's ever gonna. I'm not gonna say anything bad. I'm not reviewing your songs and telling you whether you suck at it or not, bro. Like, like if you make music, submit it. I'll make a post on Instagram about a question or something. I did want to ask what everybody's favorite part of the Nashville show was. So maybe that might be the question. But I'll post on Instagram about it sometime that I'm not half-brained. Yo, Joe, thanks for coming through. Zombie, good looks for even popping into the podcast, whether you forgot it was Thursday or not, bro. You got 3 hours and 30 minutes of content to watch, so have fun, man.
Yeah, I guess the question this week is, what's your favorite part of Nashville?
Yeah, there you go. If you weren't at Nashville, I have a recap video up,
Yeah.
so
There you
you
go.
can participate whether you were there or not. The recap video isn't the full concert, and there's not a clip of Christmas Party in it. I am a piece of crap. Bro. Seeing Heber, I ain't gonna lie. One of my favorite parts of Nashville is the footage where it pans over to Heber and he's just going insane. Looks right at the camera, says the lyrics, and I pan back. Like, that is like it's such a core memory implanted in my brain, just because I was like, yo, he's right here, so I'm gonna get some footage of him going crazy. And bro, he went crazy, bro. I could hear him saying the lyrics, bro. Like, there was 250 people there and I could hear him over the music, bro. Like, that's crazy.
I think I could hear myself.
That shit was crazy. Is there at least isolated in there? Yes, there is isolated. I have a clip of every single song besides Christmas Party. I don't even know where my clip of Christmas Party went. Like, I definitely got one, but I have a small clip, but not as good. Word. So yeah, there you go. But yeah, guys, thanks for coming through for another week. This was episode 14, Pain from the Past. Join us for episode 15. Again, guest hosted by Sil Heber for Poetry in the Present. And this is going to conclude tonight's segment. I appreciate everybody for coming through. Enjoy the What If and the theme song to end the stream. Love y'all. Seriously. Thank you so much. This is
Good night.
so much fun, bro. I have fun. Whether I'm talking or not, bro. I'm sitting here and I learn new things.
I don't hate her.
So much fun.
I
This is
hate
What
what
If.
she's become.
By the way, this song's almost at 500K on Spotify, bro.
Wouldn't it be better if you put her someplace?
You mean an institution?
Oh, Al wanted to speak. I wanted to shout everyone out. Hang on, bro. I got you after the song, bro.
Oh, you piece of shit.
punched my microphone, so I apologize to all of you on YouTube who heard it.
I'm playing it back, but I'm taking it back. Now fuck it. I'm trying to see how we work. I'm gonna take them apart, try put it on back. I'm wondering, how could you fuck up this song? We're lively, warm, now you dead in a sad. Fuck it, I'm burying you by the bridge, so you bounce to the boats. Fill it with rats. Piece of shit. If I went out to work and the shaft collapsed, I never came back. What if I came home at 12? You thought it would be you sitting on his lap. Maybe I lift up my axe and I clock it at home, just try picturing that. I'm getting under his bark and I'm counting the rings and I'm eating the fire. I've grown tired, my hands rest wired, tied up. I've nothing to regret. I love it so much. Was holding my soul. I almost threw up this moment. My rage is growing so much. What if I went out to work and the shaft collapsed? I never came back. What if I came home at 12? You thought it would be you sitting on his lap. Maybe I lift up my axe and I clock it at home, just try picturing that. I'm getting under his bark and I'm counting the rings and I'm eating the fat. Fuck.
Al, I'm bringing you up, bro. Don't say anything that's gonna get me banned, bro. We're still live.
Yo, I just wanted to shout out the boys for real, the DS gang.
Where?
My boy Sil, my boy Heber, my boy DV
Yo.
Dingle. For real.
No
Wanted to
way.
shout out the Cord. Hope everyone has a great night. W boys, W pod. That's it. That's all I wanted to say.
Bless, man.
W
Thank
Al,
you.
bro.
W out.
Love my
WL,
boys,
bro.
bro. Love my
Love you too,
people.
bro.
Gay
Yes,
for y'all.
sir.
He said he's
I
gay.
am.
All right, bro. He said devious dingle, bro. No way. That is on the internet now, bro. It was safe in sewer cord. That was,
Yup.
bro.
Yup. I gotta shout out my boy Wasted too, bro.
All right. No self promo. No, I'm kidding. Wasted's a goat. Wasted's a goat. That's the little homie. That's my German shooter. If you guys didn't know, Wasted is my German shooter. Don't play around. But yeah, Al, thanks for coming up. God damn.
Bro.
Yeah, guys, you heard it. Shout out to everybody, and I have no words. That was fucking awesome. That was fucking awesome, bro. Thank you, Al. That was fun. Who next?
That was
No,
awesome,
what's next is me washing my face, brushing my teeth, and putting my face in my pillow. Just so you know. That's what's next. Your boy is tired, bro. I didn't even do no talking tonight, and I'm tired. So, with that being said, this is our theme song, which is in the recap video called Lovesick. Yunny actually posted it and was just like, it's sick to see this live, and reached out and stuff. So, future podcast with Yunny Golds, maybe?
Be sick. Be the best thing I've ever seen.
That'd be sick, yeah. Hell yeah. Peace out, guys.
bro.
Have a fan. You said Jabari? What'd you say?
That would be sick.
Huh?
Did
I
you
thought
say
I
something?
heard Jabari.
Oh no, I said it's gonna be a fire. No, my bad.
Oh, I thought I heard Jabari, and I was just like, I don't know if I can get Jabari, bro. He's got industry placements. Like,
Yeah,
he's got
You can get Jabari. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, we can get Jabari on, bro. You know.
Don't worry
probably.
about it.
But that man has industry placements with one of my favorite rappers who's actually signed. Like, it's crazy, bro. I remember the first day I heard it because it's on the O beat from Comet. Is that Comet 2? That's Comet 2. O.
That's crazy, actually.
Yeah, it's Mozzie. The homies want to know. So when I heard that, and I heard in the beginning, I was just like, ooh. It came on my shuffle, and I was like, wait, what? Because he's like, mud pies on, love Holly. It's a completely different flow, and I'm just like, that is not Sewerperson, you know? So, yeah, that was crazy.
That's sick.
But yeah, Yoni reached out. He didn't say anything about the podcast, but he said thanks for the footage. But maybe I'll ask him to come on. I have a couple guests who I don't want to say that I want to come on that are probably going to come on. So I'm going to stop talking and play Lovesick before I say too much. Have a good night, guys.
Have a good night.
Fuck him, I don't need her to love me. She would do it still if I came with no money. Yeah, 2 ounce perfect anymore, it's too muddy. She my Snow White, as she lining up dummies.
Have a good night, guys.
Yes, all night up until it gets sunny. I'll be alright with this potion in my tummy. Yeah, this is my shit, you cannot take it from me. I get toxic when it come to how I'm loving. You know, love's a mosh pit, and I think I'm seeing red. I'll be honest, I can't get you on my head. I know you know that feeling, you know that feeling. Know you love that feeling, you know that feeling. Yeah. Oh, she said, baby, I can break you in good.
Yep.
I said, don't you try, but you know I wish you would. Cause I can show you things you never heard before I told you. I can give you more than just a dream that I sold you. I'm back in my place with a 5 on a clock. Take you to the 6 side, get you on live. Girl, if you on my side, I'll show you the bright side. Miami and high tide, we just died. I can't wait to fuck ya, I can't wait to crush ya. Let me roll this blunt up, then we go die. Take me as I am, cause I can't be no one else. Where was everybody when I needed me some help? So let's fuck it all, you know I can do this shit myself. And I got plenty drugs that I can finish by myself. That's the way it go. But you just like be the one I lean on. Come through tonight and be the one I sweet on. I would've waited forever for you. I'd do whatever you wanted me to do. I can hear you in my head like shit, and I think I'm seeing red. I'll be honest, I can't get you on my head. I know you know that feeling, you know that feeling. Know you love that feeling, you know that feeling. You know love's a mosh pit, and I think I'm seeing red. I'll be honest, I can't get you on my head. I know you know that feeling.
Shout out to Sil. Shout out to Heber. Episode 14, Pain from the Past. Come back next week for
Shout out to
episode
Dev,
15.
bro.
Dev.
Man. Thank y'all. Have a good night. Bye, YouTube.